Council will call this meeting to order. For the record, it is April 9th, 2024 at 4:31 PM. We'll begin this afternoon's work session with roll call attendance.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Councilman Kavner,
Here.
Councilwoman Little Roberts. Here. Councilman Taylor.
Here.
Councilman Overton.
Here.
Councilwoman Strader. Here. Mayor Simonson.
Here. Next item up is adoption of the agenda.
Mr. Mayor,
Councilwoman Strader.
looks like we do have a change to the agenda. We will remove item 9 from the agenda. And with that change, I move that we adopt the agenda.
Second.
Have a motion and a second to adopt the agenda as amended. Is there any discussion? If not, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. The ayes have it, and the agenda is adopted as amended. Next up is the consent agenda.
Mr. Mayor,
Councilwoman Strader.
that change, I move that we approve the consent agenda for the mayor to sign and clerk to attest.
Second.
Have a motion and a second to approve the consent agenda. Is there any discussion? If not, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. The ayes have it, and the consent agenda is agreed to. There are no items moved from the consent agenda, so we'll move on to department commission reports. First up is item 11, Parks and Recreation Commission Annual Update. And Mandy will be presenting.
Good afternoon, Mayor, council members. It's so great to be here with you this afternoon. And let me tell you, I am so proud to be serving on the Parks and Recreation Commission. What a great Parks Department we have, great staff. It's just my pleasure. I grew up in Meridian, and to be here, at this stage of my life and representing Parks and Recreation is just a true delight. So what I'd like to do is I have a presentation. And thank you to Ms. Shelley Houston for helping me put this presentation together. I want to walk through some of the goals that we have as a Parks and Recreation Commission and give you an update as to some of the things that we're accomplishing as we go along to meet those goals. And a lot of it has to do with the great staff and their work. So first of all, if we go to the next slide, our mission, am I to be turning my own slides, by the way? Okay. Press page down or right arrow. Thank you. Okay, well, here we are. I do not know when this photo was taken because I wasn't there, but it was fairly recent, and this represents some of our more recent additional commissioners to the commission. And then, of course, John and I were not in the picture, but we're so glad that we have diversity of representatives, and Elle Hood is our youth representative, Ellie, so it's great to have her with us as well. So just to kind of take a look at some of our goals, and let me just say our overall mission is to enhance our community's quality of life by providing innovatively designed parks, connected pathways, and diverse recreation opportunities for all citizens of Meridian that create lasting memories. And boy, are we doing that. All we have to do is go out to our great parks, places like Discovery Park that's been, opening up in different phases and seeing that we're really setting the pace for the region with what we're doing. Our meetings are held generally the second Wednesday of each month at 5:30 here in City Hall. Meetings are live streamed and open to the public. And boy, we would love to invite people to attend our meetings. It would be great to have folks come and listen in and provide comments. So each year we set goals as a commission. We have 10 goals that we're actively working towards currently. And so our first goal is, and we do prioritize these, by the way, so these are in order of priority, but our first goal is to participate in the development of the Pathways Master Plan update. And I know that we're planning to embark upon that project soon. It will be a guide for pathway development over the next 20 to 50 years. The city's already done an incredible job of inventorying their system, monitoring improvements needed, and completing the gaps and working with those. Recently, the city selected Alta Consulting to assist with the project, and we're expecting that project will take approximately 1 year to complete, and we'll be working with staff as we complete that work. So in addition to supporting the master planning effort, just supporting on an ongoing basis the development of a connected pathway system across the city with a focus on user experience, amenities, and improved connectivity. So over the past year, we've seen major progress in our pathway system, including work along the 5-mile pathway, which is a priority pedestrian route, including the Golden Spike, a segment of the pathway that connects 10 Mile and Black Cat roads, and a new pedestrian bridge across 9 Mile Creek that you may have seen that was just delivered and installed not too long ago. So last month, we also celebrated the ribbon cutting of a new pathway segment that connects Mary McPherson Elementary School to the nearby Reflection Ridge subdivision, not too far from where I live, and really provides students with a safe route to school and eliminates the need for some students to ride the bus, which is really a wonderful need there that's being served. So if we go to just a few photos of some of these events, including some of the wonderful public art that is part of Trailheads, as well as some of the ribbon cutting and activities that I just mentioned. This is the bridge over 9 Mile Creek. And this new pathway will connect with several miles of existing pathways to the southeast, resulting in over 8 miles of connected pathways along 5 Mile Creek, which is the longest pedestrian route in Meridian to date. Okay. Moving on, goal 3 is super exciting, again, because so much is happening at the Lakeview Golf Course. So our commission is supporting the improvements that are in process and future improvements, as well as those that are already happening before our eyes, including the clubhouse and patio improvements and new on-course restrooms that are being installed. So the remodeling efforts are really going extremely well. I don't know if folks have been out there lately, but the weather's getting nice, so I'm sure more people will be going out to enjoy these improvements. We've been taking care of painting, carpeting, furnishings. There's a custom golf-themed bar top. We got to see a preview of that in our meeting last week. It's quite extraordinary. I think that'll just be drawing the golfers in left and right to see this new bar top. And then we do plan to hold a ribbon cutting for the remodel in early May. That date will be announced soon, so stay tuned for that. And 2 new on-course restrooms also will be added this year. And we'll be adding 2 planned for next year as well. So here are just some photos of some of the improvements that are happening out at the golf course, including interior and exterior views, work on the patio, including shelter area, new furnishings, and whatnot. There will also be a new putting mat of artificial turf that runs the entire length of the driving range. So we'll give that other golf place a little bit of a run, won't we? I won't name that place. Goal 4, participate in the partnership with Meridian Arts Commission by adding to add theming and identify reinforcing art in our parks along pathways. And a focus this year is on Discovery Park, Seasons Park, and Chateau Park, which is very exciting. If some of you have been out to Discovery Park, you perhaps have seen some of the artwork that's been installed out there, including the benches, which are really interesting designs made out of recycled materials. And some of the pieces that are really interactive. You kind of need to walk around, get different views, understand, what the art is all about to really experience it. This is if you haven't been out there to see the new enhancements at Seasons Park with the theme of seasons and different colors throughout the seasons. And these kind of translucent panels really light up with sun shining through. And it's just so dramatic when you're out there experiencing them in person and the changing colors. And what an enhancement to kind of an older park in our community, right? So really cool. Chateau Park, which is by where my mom lives, we're talking about installing some artwork there in the early stages of working through some theme concepts and working with local artist Ken McCall to create some art elements that will be located there. So again, one of our older parks, but an opportunity to really recognize our history and what's special about our community through the art the art project that will be installed there. All right, almost halfway through. So everyone is super excited about our new community center, and I know the process is moving forward. We, as a commission, will be participating in the design process and programming efforts, working, of course, with staff and understanding, what our needs are for the community center. The new site that is being reviewed for the community center is adjacent to Settlers Park, as shown in this map. And it's been tentatively selected as the new Meridian Community Center site. So the purchase sale agreement goes before City Council and the West Ada School Board soon. And there will also be public hearings on this matter. Once this is approved, we'll move forward into the concept design portion of the project. And in addition to a new community center, the property will also accommodate additional parking, which is important for this location. And it will be useful for those attending athletics at Settlers Park, which has a lot of demand for parking there on an ongoing basis. So pretty exciting to be a part of that project as it moves forward. Another specific project is the replacement of the Settlers Park splash pad. Just a little bit of a photograph of construction underway, which will install an all-new splash pad at the park. The previous splash pad had been in place for more than 15 years. That's the other thing that I love about Meridian Parks is we take such good care of our parks and our facilities. They last a long time, but they don't last forever. So we do have to make replacements and make some changes, as you all know. So thank you for being willing to invest in these improvements that are needed. And, one of the things that we learned from these projects is that trying to find parts, for example, over time, they become obsolete. It's hard to find them. So we just have to replace some of our facilities from time to time, which was the case with this splash pad. Right. So every year there are a number of different park improvements and enhancements that happen throughout the year. And we function as kind of a sounding board for those as the commission. So staff and others will bring those projects to us and we'll look at different aspects of those and make comments and provide guidance. So that's really an important part of our job. There's really a wide variety of those kinds of things that come through, anything from playground replacements to updated signing and, parts and pieces of different parks. Discovery Park has been a big focus, as you can imagine, one of our biggest. So some of the more recent things that we've been involved in include the replacement of the Chateau, Bear Creek, and Tully Park playgrounds, the remodel of Home Court Space 6 to create classroom and activity space, planting of new cherry trees at Kleiner Park, of course, the development of Discovery Park Phase 2, the skate park murals at Tully Park, addition of pickleball courts at Kleiner Park, and the donation of additional land from the Hill family to Hillsdale Park. All right, goal 8 is really about collaborating and engaging partners and other task forces and commissions and entities. And we do this in a number of different ways, whether it's collaborating in workshops or outreaching in partnership opportunities. We frequently invite certain entities to come in and give us updates. We had a great presentation from the Lions Club Rodeo a few months ago, which was super interesting to me to understand that history of the rodeo and how that's evolved over time. We work on community service projects together. And so, just to list a few of our frequent collaborators, I'll go back. Meridian Youth Baseball and Softball, Meridian PAL, Meridian PAL, the Main Street Market, Ada County Parks and Waterways, Co-op Gardeners, Republic Services, Idaho Fish and Game, West Ada School District, and many others are involved and linked with us as a commission and as a staff. All right, let's talk about the pool. Pretty exciting as well to see how the city has really done so well with assuming the responsibility for operations of the pool. I used to swim there when I was a kid, and it's today still a very lively, great place for our community to enjoy swimming and swimming lessons throughout the summer. And so a number of different improvements have been made to make sure that the pool is really in tip-top condition and it's being provided in a safe and efficient manner as a facility for our community. Some of the improvements that I'm sure you've noticed out there include new fabric shade structures, new lifeguard chairs, a diving board was replaced, and we are anticipating summer opening Monday, June 3rd, in case folks want to know about that. And the hiring of lifeguards, which is always a big deal every year, trying to find enough lifeguards, that's going really well. We anticipate being able to offer some weekend open swim hours this year, in addition to the weekday open swim and swimming lessons. So wonderful news on that regard. Oh, did I go too fast? Maybe I did. Sorry. All right, last but not least, we are really committed to improving our communication and engagement as we look out to the community. We want more people to know about us and to be involved and to share comments with us. So we are going to be having more of a face on social media, Instagram, and other venues. And we just want to improve and broaden our communications to engage the community and disseminate information. So with the Instagram account for Meridian Parks and Recreation and for Discovery Bike and Skate Park, those are some recent activities that have really helped us kind of create more of an online presence and hopefully garner a bit more attention out there in the community. And then we are also developing a monthly e-newsletter that highlights relevant news, information, upcoming classes, activities, and events. And that will be emailed to everyone that is in our Rec 1 database. So I just want to close by covering some accolades and awards that we really need to mention and recognize our folks for. So in February 2022, at the City of Meridian's annual all golf meeting, Recreation Coordinator Jenna Fletcher was presented with one of the city's prestigious CARE Champion Awards. So we really want to congratulate Jenna. Mayor Robert Simison was also honored, seasonal staff members Daryl Freder, pictured, and Sterling Hadley, not pictured, with Meridian Way coins for their role in assisting a resident who needed help with her child during a visit to Settlers Park. Seasonal staff member Andrew Carlson was also awarded a Meridian Way coin by Mayor Simison for voluntarily assisting a citizen who was struggling to load some heavy bags of concrete into the bed of his truck. So we thank our citizens for that. And it is one of the things that we love about Meridian is just our community and how helpful we are to each other. So we really want to recognize that. Let's see. I think this was for the last set of talking points, but we'll move on. So very recently, we had a team go up to the Idaho Recreation and Parks Association Awards, which is IRPA. This photograph is actually from last year's awards, which we won some awards last year. But this year, hot off the press, thank you, Shelley. We have breaking news. We were awarded Outstanding Innovative Program for some of the play equipment that we replaced. We actually repurposed that across the country. I'm sure you guys heard about that across the world. And being able to provide that equipment, which was still in good working order to third world countries for their use, was a great honor for us. And it also resulted in our city being awarded the Outstanding Innovative Program Award. We also were awarded, and this just happened last week, right, Steve? Yeah, I think so. We also were awarded the Discovery Park Phase 2 project as an Outstanding Park or Facility Award. And boy, is it, right? It really is. And then last but not least, our own Parks Director, Steve Sidaway, was awarded, this is very prestigious, the Dr. Leon Green Fellowship Award, which is, and Steve didn't want me to say this, but I'm going to say it anyway, it's the highest and most prestigious individual honor award given by IRPA to recognize vigorous activity in the Parks and Recreation field. So I would like to get a round of applause for everyone, including Steve. So I think that covers all of the points I was going to make tonight. And I just want to thank you all so much. And I'm available to stand for questions. We'll try to answer them. I might have to call on Director Sidaway to help, but.
Yeah, thank you. Council, any questions? And I think that was a little bit more of a department report than necessarily a commission report all the way around. So yes, you can phone a friend.
Thank you.
Mr. Mayor.
Councilwoman Little Roberts.
Mr. Mayor, and thank you so much for your presentation. It was wonderful. I am such a huge fan of our whole system. It's amazing. Just having finished 4 lessons at home court in pickleball, are we catching up with the demand for pickleball courts? Would be my question.
Yes, and that is a phone a friend answer that we might be needed. I know from some of the presentations that staff has given us, they're really trying, they're working on that, so, yeah.
Yeah, thank you, Madam Mayor and Councilwoman Roberts. I don't know if there's any true catching up. The demand is exponential, but we continue to add pickleball courts. I just had an interview just yesterday with a reporter doing a story on pickleball and the demand for it in the community. So you'll probably see that coming out in the Idaho Press with their summer activity guide. But just in the last couple of years, we have added 4 new courts at Kleiner Park. And then in October, we opened 6 new courts that are dedicated in Discovery Park, as well as 2 that are dual striped on the tennis courts where you can play at the net, or 4 more bring your own net style pickleball courts. In addition, we're about to resurface the pickleball courts in Settlers Park. And then there's a renovation project scheduled for this spring, summer in Rita Husky Park for those pickleball courts, which have developed a large crack in them and need some renovation. So we continue to add. I don't think I would say that that we've met demand. The demand continues to climb, but it's very popular. And home court continues to see just an amazing amount of use indoors as well. So.
Mr. Mayor.
Councilman Overton.
Mindy, thank you for that report. Last year I had the opportunity to be the liaison for parks, and one of the things I learned really quickly is what a great job you and the rest of the commission do with your support, your dedication, your service, helping our parks department. It's a proud moment in our city when we can have not just a commission, but an entire department of parks personnel that can take such pride in our city and be so proud of having probably the best parks in the entire state of Idaho. But we only have that because we have such dedicated personnel that want to keep working on that, keeping our parks looking so nice. And yes, phase 2 of Discovery Park is pretty amazing.
Yeah.
I hope we get every award possible for that park. Thank you.
Thank you.
Council, any additional questions or comments?
Mr. Mayor.
Councilman Cavanagh.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Mandy, appreciate your report. Moreover, I really appreciate your enthusiasm. I love when our commissioners come very enthusiastic about the role that they serve, and it's infectious. It gets me excited about some of the things you're talking about. So I'm always curious, you present the goals of kind of the commission and the department are helpful. What's your vision? What's the commission's vision for Meridian's parks and recreation long-term? Like when you close your eyes, you're someone who's spent a lot of time in our community. I'm just curious, what does the future look like from your perspective? And what should we be thinking about as a city council?
Yeah, thank you for asking that very important question. I think one of the things that stands out to us is just the need to better connect with our community, which is why we have the communication goals that we do, is just to make sure that people are out there enjoying our parks, they're enjoying our pathways. It's part of their daily lives, and we want them to know how committed we are to keeping that level of service for them going, and what a great staff we have, and a little bit of how much effort and investment it takes to really make that happen. And so just really building awareness with the community about those activities and what's needed on an ongoing basis is really important. And if you were to ask me, what do we need to do kind of like on the ground for improvements as we move forward? I mean, we're doing a great job. I think one of the things I'll be kind of watching is just with the growth that we're experiencing, particularly in our downtown area and public areas that maybe can't rely as much on private sector parks and recreation. What are some of the things that we can do downtown to kind of serve those needs as we grow? So,
Mr. Mayor, one additional one, if I may.
Councilman Cavanagh.
It kind of dovetails with that. And thank you for acknowledging and recognizing our park staff. I wasn't aware of Mr. Sidaway's national recognition. That's really incredible and a testament to Steve's passion and enthusiasm for our community. When you talk about downtown, it's something that I'm always keenly interested in. And last week, the council discussed some changes to the kind of proposed railroad trail segment that runs along here around downtown. And pathways certainly is your number one priority. From a council perspective, help us see how important that railroad trail segment is in the commission's eyes to our overall pathway network.
yeah, we do see that that's an important piece, especially for access downtown to connect people from one place to another. Some of our streets downtown are not necessarily, they don't rise to the top of being pedestrian and bicycle friendly. They're really dedicated to a lot of movement of traffic, which they need to be to get people, through town. But in terms of people, especially now that we have more people living downtown and more people working, and that's going to increase with some of the projects that are being built, we need to improve mobility for pedestrians and bicyclists. And so whatever we can do through pathways and the rail to trail conversion and other activities, even on street, I've worked for some communities, for example, that have identified green streets or ped bike streets that are kind of, okay, we have these other big corridors that are for the cars and they're carrying a lot of traffic. These are the corridors that we want to make sure are really enhanced for pedestrians and bicyclists. So let's make sure we're doing what we can to improve access along those streets, whether it's enhancing the crossings, making sure we have dedicated bike lanes or sharrows or trails, separated paths, things like that. So, I think as we grow and more people are downtown, whether they're living, working, or even visiting here, we owe it to them to really improve the connectivity in a safe manner. So, yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Council, any additional questions or comments? All right,
Thank you so much.
appreciate it. Yeah, up next is item 12, which will be our Ada County Sheriff's Office update. This evening will be presented by Sheriff Clifford.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Mayor and council, I appreciate you letting me have some time today. I'm doing kind of my biannual report, if you will, just to, every couple of years you get new council members, sometimes new mayors. And so it's nice to come back every couple of years to say, here's what the sheriff does in your community. I was paging through here and there are quite a few things that we do with Meridian Police specifically, and I did not design it that way. It's just naturally will come out like that. So we'll get started. The Ada County Sheriff's Office is the largest law enforcement agency in the state of Idaho. We have about 850 employees. Of those employees, about 400 of them are commissioned and are spread out through three or four different bureaus, and I'll go over all those bureaus. Our mission statement is to make Ada County a safe place for you to live, work, and play. The bureaus are split up into 5 different bureaus, so because we do a lot of different functions that police departments do not. Statutorily, we're required to do certain things, and we provide a lot of programs for the community that just are not really in the purview of a police department. So we're divided up into police services, jail services, court, administrative, and communications. You see on the map kind of the area of Ada County. We're responsible for over 1,100 square miles of land and about 2,100 square miles of road. You can see Meridian's purple on the left there. Everything that's white is unincorporated, so all of the call load will come to the sheriff's office in that white area. And then, of course, we contract with the cities of Star, Eagle, and Cuna for police services. We'll go into police services really quickly. This is the things you see outside your window on the news, usually, kind of the face of the agency, if you will. All the things that the Meridian Police Department does with patrol and canine. We have a Ada Metro SWAT, so we team up with Garden City, Meridian Police, and us, and have our own SWAT team that covers all those areas, every area except Boise. Some of the other places where we overlap are our drone program. We have a pretty robust drone program, as does Meridian. So we find ourselves on a lot of calls for service together, where we can, throw drones up and battery dies on one agency's drone. They bring it down and they send the next one up while you're changing out. We work together on a lot of those tactical operations. Some of the things you don't see in the police departments, Marine Patrol, we do that during the summer. We're contracted with the Army Corps of Engineers to take care of the Lucky Peak corridor up there. We also have an off-road team, so we have a UTV, some dual sport bikes, and a handful of dual sport bikes, so we can do search and rescue or other calls for service up in the foothills or out in the desert. Administrative Services Bureau, this is kind of all the inner workings of the sheriff's office. It's a lot of different things. We manage property and evidence for the Boise Police Department and, of course, for the sheriff's office. Statutorily, we're required to issue driver's license and concealed weapons. We, of course, added that second driver's license location not that long ago here in Meridian. It is going very well. It's a very nice facility. And it's really improved a lot of operations for the citizens of Meridian. Our fleet manages over 300 vehicles or some type of, we call them assets. Some of those are trailers and the UTV and all those types of things, but we have in-house mechanic right on site at Barrister that can service all of those things, makes it very efficient. My finance department, I very much appreciate them since, as you know, we're all in the throes of budget process. Our budget last year was 115 million. So it's a lot of moving parts of a large agency and counting every penny. So they do a really great job and they love budgets. So I like having them around. And then, of course, we have data analytics where we can create the crime maps for Boise, Meridian, and Ada County. Garden City asked me why they weren't on there, and we are adding them now that they've gone over to the ITS system that was created by Meridian. Now that they'll be on there, we'll be able to also get their statistics up there as well. We also have in the admin bureau our community engagement team. So a lot of things that also Meridian Police does with, safety fairs, a national night out. Of course, you're all familiar with that. We do that as well. Both agencies have K-9 units that do a lot of demonstrations in schools and at different functions. And of course, we are busy out in the public with our different city contracts as they have their different festivals and normal city functions that you don't see in unincorporated Ada County very often. And then we do a lot of crime prevention on social media as well through that team. It's something that I've been starting to bring up because people don't really understand it's out there a lot of times, but this America's Promise youth plate is specific to the sheriffs of Idaho. So all the $25 from your initial registration of this plate and $15 of your renewal goes specifically to the Ada County Sheriff's Youth Foundation. So here in Ada County. So every sheriff has one of these set up for the plates that are issued in their county. We use the money to put back into programs like Big Brothers Big Sisters. I sit on the board of directors, as does the mayor. We sit on the board of directors there. And we're able to give back and help them support programs, the Boys and Girls Club, the Y. It's kind of spread out towards specific youth, whether it's mentorship or at-risk youth. So I throw that out there because people see those plates, but they don't realize that that's what that specifically does when you register under those plates.
Matt, while you're Mr. Sheriff, while you're right there, you maybe want to talk about the Bigs in Blue.
Absolutely. I'd love to talk about the Bigs in Blue. The Bigs in Blue program is a program through Big Brothers Big Sisters. It's a national program. We participated in it here where we try and match bigs and littles specifically to law enforcement. Now, law enforcement officers are very busy generally, but we are able to find a good handful of them that can be mentors to these kids that are in the programs and really, kind of help them through parts of their lives that might be missing at home, or can help them get them out of that situation of being an at-risk youth. So it's really great. The bigs that we have at the sheriff's office really find it rewarding. And of course, if you're one of the littles that participate, having a cop be your big brother or big sister is a really cool thing to them. So it's a really great program. Thank you, sir, for reminding me of that. Something we started a couple of years ago was, you see it around everywhere, was No Shave November. We'd never been allowed to do this with previous administrations, so we decided that we would give it a go. It started because I walked into our victim services, into a conference room where our victim services were having a bake sale, and I said, "What is the bake sale for?" And they said, "It's for our victim fund, because we can't fund that with our county taxpayer money." And I said, "Okay, well, you're having a bake, why, how much money's in there?" And they said, "Well, there's no money in there. That's why we're having a bake sale." And I thought we could do better than that. So we jumped on No Shave November, and we, if you are a commission deputy, you could grow a beard. Our professional staff can already grow beards. And of course, females aren't growing beards that I know of. So we said they could buy into it and wear jeans 1 day a week. So with jeans and beards, we were able to raise over $11,000 this year. So who would have thought that that's what would inspire money to inspire people? But jeans and beards are a big deal, apparently. Let's see. Another, oh, no, that's messed up. Sorry about that. that didn't match. So our Emergency Communications Bureau is going to be our dispatch center. We run the largest dispatch center in the state of Idaho. We dispatch for all police, fire, and EMS. They took about 504,000 calls for service last year. I should say calls for service. Those are calls in and out of the dispatch center. It's funny when you talk to certain people and they say, well, how many of those are really real calls? It doesn't matter. A dispatcher has to pick up the phone. They have to answer the call or call someone back, whether they're asking what temperature to bake bread or they have an emergency on the other line. It takes up time from a dispatcher who has to do their job when other calls keep coming in. This is been one of my focuses last year's budget. If you saw any of that, we're deficient in the amount of dispatchers that we actually have in this dispatch center by about 20. We're fully staffed right now, but we're still deficient 20 positions. So I will probably be harassing the commissioners again this year about getting more dispatchers, but they were able to give me a couple last year, so I appreciate that. One of the big things we did through the legislature with the help of Idaho Chiefs of Police and Idaho Sheriff's Association, we were able to classify dispatchers as first responders in Idaho. A lot of states do not classify them as first responders, and we were also able to develop them into the Percy retirement system under first responders. So they go through a lot of mental anguish. It actually causes them physical issues because of working in the dispatch center and experiencing trauma that literally they can only hear. We don't think about, what that does to them. And so we were able to bring them in and finalize that this year with the legislature. So it was really, really great. Court Services Bureau. This is a bureau that does a lot of things. If you were here when I came in and talked about the jail bond last year, I talked a lot about what this bureau does with all of our programs that help us identify people that we can supervise outside the jail instead of inside the jail, and also identify those that need to stay inside the jail. So that's going to be my misdemeanor probation. It's the largest misdemeanor probation we have in Idaho. Our pretrial services and alternative sentencing. So we usually supervise somewhere between 2,000 and 2,300 people outside the walls of the jail, where the jail usually has about 1,000 people inside. So if we weren't overseeing those folks, they would all most likely be inside of our jail, which we cannot accommodate. Also, our transport unit is in that bureau. They did over 1,200 transports outside of Ada County last year. They're also responsible for traveling outside of the state of Idaho to retrieve fugitives that have been caught elsewhere. So we go everywhere from Alaska to Florida to Texas to go retrieve inmates and bring them back and bring them in front of the court. My civil team is also in that Court Services Bureau. Statutorily, the sheriff is required to perform certain civil functions and like evictions and service of court documents. Last year, in person, we served almost 8,200 court documents. Also, our training just kind of got lumped into that bureau as well. So we run our own academies for detention, dispatch, and patrol, and we run those all through the Court Services Bureau. So we have a team of trainers and a facility where that all takes place. So jail services, again, if you were here when I talked about the bond, I talked a lot about jail services. We're not going to talk about the bond today. The jail's it's like a small town. There are more people that live and work in there than the town I came from in Idaho, and for real. But some of the things that they do in there are pretty amazing. But we have a big health services unit in there, which is able to care for 1,000 inmates, whatever medical needs they have. We do a lot of medical transports to the hospital and back, and special transports to specialty care. But we can handle quite a few things. We can't do surgery and those types of things. But we can handle most of your normal ailments that are going on with inmates. Our laundry facility does, I think it's like 2,500 loads of laundry a month. We have a sewing program where female inmates can go and kind of learn a trade and have something to do. They also participate with a program called the Linus program, where they make quilts and donate them to at-risk children. And then we have our special response team, which is basically a jail SWAT. I call it indoor SWAT, but it's basically like a jail SWAT team. So specialized deputies that can go in and handle specific instances anywhere in the jail. Another thing that we're doing in the jail that we implemented last year was our Serve Safe certification. We're trying to at least provide some skills to people that if they're going to be in there for a longer period of time. It's not that easy to do because we have a very transient population. We are not meant to hold inmates that are serving time, so they're awaiting their trials most of the time. But we do have some longstanding inmates that we can get through the Serve Safe certification. The inmates run the kitchen, so once they get that certification, they can go out in the public and just go right into a kitchen and start working instead of having to go get the certification. So they're kind of one up on someone that doesn't have that. And we've had about 15 people graduate from that so far. And this is my shameless plug right here. So I put this picture up here because like everywhere else, we're really looking for talented females to work at our agency. This picture, we have a jail sergeant, patrol deputy, a nurse, a property and evidence tech. And I mean, we have so many positions, but I really, really am looking for female deputies that we can have working in the jail, in the courthouse, or on patrol. Just one of those things where I truly believe they are out there, and there are probably more people, more females that don't know that they can do the job. So our recruiting is pretty heavy towards females to say, hey, by the way, you're qualified and you can do this job. Don't let somebody tell you you can't. So they're out there. We're looking for them, and I just always throw that up there in case somebody wants that. That'll take you to our career page.
Thank you, Sheriff Clifford. One thing you didn't touch on is in addition to allowing facial hair, you've also allowed top hats.
Top hats, is that?
Cowboy hats, top hats, whatever you want to call them.
Yeah, that is something that kind of evolved through a bunch of talk of, hey, it'd be kind of cool if we did that. We're a Western Sheriff's Office, and then they were allowed to wear them at the Eagle Rodeo, and they went over very well. And then I said I would allow them at the Star 4th of July parade, and stood out in the sun about 3 days before that parade, and have fair skin cancer runs in my family, and I just stood out there frying and decided I'm gonna go buy my first cowboy hat and we're just gonna make it happen. So we did.
Excellent. Council, any questions or comments?
Mr. Mayor.
Councilman Overton.
Sheriff, great presentation. I appreciate it. And I want to tell you how much I appreciate the longstanding relationship you've had with Meridian Police. I remember when over 20 years ago, we did not have a great relationship between the two agencies, and it was critical then and it's critical now that we have the tight relationship through all the different aspects of what you do. We forget some days as Meridian City grows and the county grows, unfortunately, your population in jail grows. It's kind of a relationship that sometimes gets overlooked. And we appreciate everything you do to work with our department and try to keep our community safe. And one last thing, I hope this means I'll see you again at the Pancake Feed at Dairy Days again this year.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Thank you, sir.
Well, Mayor and Council, I do appreciate I appreciate the relationship as well. It's always existed kind of at the line level. The trick is getting it to exist at that agency head level. And we certainly have really great relationships, the chiefs and the sheriff and the prosecutor. And it's been really great over the last couple of years to see a lot of friendships grow and a lot of working together. I always say that, the thing I say, and the chiefs probably heard me say it a million times, you're going to wake up tomorrow and Meridian's going to be across the street from the city of Nampa. And that's probably going to be the truth someday. And we have to prepare as law enforcement heads of how are we going to work together when we're all growing together. Not that many farm fields separate in the cities anymore. And so you're just right next door to your next door agency. And it's been great. I have a partnership with Meridian. It's been fantastic.
Thank you.
Mr. Mayor.
Councilwoman Strader.
Thank you, Sheriff. I just want to compliment you. I appreciate the work that you're doing, particularly your efforts to reclassify the dispatchers as first responders. I think that was really important and very thoughtful. Understanding this isn't a jail bond discussion, but do you have interim plans to keep moving forward? Obviously, not the ideal set of resources, but how are you kind of planning to move forward in the meantime?
Well, Mayor and Council, great question. It didn't mean I didn't want to talk about the jail bond. It's just I wasn't presenting on. However, I can answer that question for sure. In the beginning, at the beginning of this year, I was very adamant of, hey, we should just run this right away. Some of the data didn't kind of match up with that being a great idea until we could get a better information campaign out there. So I've been in discussions with the commissioners. It's all been on the record, so I'm not worried about talking about it, where they have the $20 million in hand that they have always had, and the bond was to supplement that to get the whole project done. Well, now we're having discussions of, well, we have the 20 million, we better do something. We can't just sit around and wait for the next bond election even. So we have to do something. Phasing it in is probably what's going to happen. The commissioners haven't voted on that yet, but I've given them all the information they need to make a decision. The problem with that is it takes a lot longer and it costs a lot more money. So I said, well, I wish I just had the whole pot of money, but it's just a wish. So I think if we take that 20 million and we start putting in some of that infrastructure so that we can fund the rest of it either next time or at a later date, it's ready to go. So we are looking at hopefully starting on our kitchen as soon as possible and doing all the civil work to put plumbing and electrical into that big swath of land that we own that's blank. So that's the plan. Again, the commissioners haven't voted on it, but that's the information that I've given. Thank you for the question.
Mr. Mayor.
Councilwoman Strader.
I think that's a fantastic response. And I know we all appreciated the foresight of the commissioners in continuing to save over the years to have those resources available. May not be what would have been ideal, but I really appreciate your can-do attitude about it and just tackling those issues head on the best that you can with the resources that you're given, and certainly want to support you in that. So I just appreciate that. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Councilman Cavanagh.
Clifford, always nice having you here. Appreciate it. And I just want to reinforce something I think Councilmember Overton touched on, which I really appreciate, which is that Meridian residents are county residents. And I think you and your department have really embraced that. And I want you to know it's seen on my side of the table and it's really appreciated. I also love when you come do these presentations because it requires me to look and really recognize there's a lot of what you do that I'm never in a situation where I see play out, face to face. And I think that you and your staff are faced with on a daily basis, and appreciate that you have a passion and desire to serve, and we're lucky to have you. I also know that because of that, often lots of problems, everyone looks to you for solutions, which is challenging, recognizing that I've got a problem that I'm looking to see if maybe you've got an idea to solve. And that's the subject of animal control. I know that you are continuing to do more with limited resources, and that's another conversation at the commission level. But has your department, have you explored animal control? And if that's something that the sheriff's department could eventually handle or address for the county, as opposed to this kind of part and piece mentality that each local jurisdiction has to take on?
Mayor and Council, great question. The short answer is we have not explored that recently. When I was the chief of police in Eagle was when we really did explore it, because Eagle was looking at the contract with IHS and decided, hey, maybe we can do this cheaper. So one of the sergeants and I sat on a big committee of really great people that had different kinds of interests. He had these crazy cat ladies, and I'll say that because they called themselves that. They had crazy cat ladies and the dog lovers and the guy who volunteers at IHS. It was a really, really diverse group. It was great. And we all kind of went into it with kind of that can-do attitude, and we came out of it saying, this is a really tough thing to do on your own. Because it's not just enforcement. It requires facilities. It requires vet care. Some people love their dogs more than they love their kids. And you put a dog in a kennel with the wrong dog and it gets hurt, and now, you have angry citizens. So in the end, when we reported back to the city of Eagle, we reported back that it would probably be a good idea to stick with the contract, just because we didn't have the resources and the facilities to handle that. It really is, it goes beyond, are we willing to go be dog catchers and animal control people? We are, but we just don't have the resources for facilities and vet care and all of that. And then having to deal with euthanasia, maybe all those hot topic items where it's kind of, some is unknown, but other parts of the state, the sheriff's office does animal control. Talking to them, to be frank, none of them like doing it. But, so that's kind of where we have not revisited that in 3 years.
Mr. Mayor.
Was that Councilman Cavanagh? Oh,
Pardon?
I could tell if this.
Yeah, it was me, if that's okay.
Councilman Cavanagh.
Sheriff Clifford, I appreciate that, and I think it's a big lift, and it's a big lift for any jurisdiction, and I don't probably disagree with any of the other sheriffs. Again, Meridian, we used to do it internally, and we've turned it over to the Humane Society, and I think the Humane Society has been there because nobody else has been able to step up, and I think that, I guess maybe my ask would be is if there's an opportunity for the cities to come together and work with the county and help support that. Again, not, here's our problem, county, you figure out how to solve it, but back to my good colleagues' comments about a collaborative can-do attitude. I think that we're a city that would like to at least be at the table if those conversations ever emerge.
Absolutely. I appreciate it. Talk to your chief. I'm willing to have a discussion about anything. But, so if that comes up, and maybe that is the future, we can talk about that.
Mr. Mayor,
Councilman Taylor.
just for a quick comment, and Sheriff Clifford, thanks for the presentation. Appreciate it. Just want to highlight something. A few months ago, we had a really unfortunate situation in Meridian. It played out in front of my home, so I was able to observe it from my second-story window and observed Ada County, our own police force, and Boise PD. And it was very impressive to watch everyone work together. It was a serious situation, didn't end super well for some, but it gave me a high level of confidence just in the way that you work together, since you mentioned that with our own police department and others. And so I think for our public to see that kind of teamwork in the community, I think really increases our level of confidence and our feeling safe. And so I just want to compliment you, and we have our leadership team from the police department here as well, just to compliment them on how well you work together. And I think what it speaks to is a lot of planning and effort behind the scenes on both parts to make sure that happens. So I just wanted to say that. So thank you.
Thank you. And Mayor and Council, that you're right. A lot of planning and effort kind of goes into that, right? We're pretty blessed in this entire valley to have agencies that are willing to work together. There are other places in the country and even some places in this state that are very territorial and silo each other off. That's usually pretty detrimental to your agency, and it's not very efficient for your community. So we really do have, in this valley, we really do have that, hey, this is all a partnership. Nobody cares what color your shirt is or what shape your badge is when they call 911. They just don't. And so let's all work together and get out there and do public service.
Council, any additional questions or comments?
No, but Mr. Mayor, I can't help but
Councilwoman
just
Roberts.
add my thank you. I've been on ride-alongs where both agencies have worked together, and it's just been absolutely seamless. So thank you for you and all that your team does. And of course, thank you to our officers. They're the best.
All right. Thank you very much, Sheriff Clifford. See you soon.
Thank you so much, sir. You guys have a great night.
You too. Next item up is item 13, which is a public hearing continued from March 26, 2024 for the community input on Meridian's Community Development Block Grant Program. Turn this over to Crystal for any additional comments.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, members of the council. I wanted to give you guys a brief update on the feedback we did receive. I'll make it super quick, but well, as quick as possible. So we did provide some public outreach. You can read through it, but email, social media, we tried to touch all the bases that we could. asked our partners to share it, and we did a few in-person interactions as well. Our public comment period was open from March 15th to April 7th, and we accepted feedback however people wanted to, including an online survey. We did receive 50 responses from residents through the survey. And in that survey, 50% of respondents said that they or someone that they knew did actually need to access some of these services. This chart shows how easy it was to access those services as well as the services that were accessed. Childcare assistance was definitely the forerunner for that, and emergency rental assistance was second. We also asked about barriers to accessing those resources, and the main one was eligibility requirements, but unfortunately, we can't really do anything about that. It's the bare minimum that is required by HUD, which is 80% or less of the area median income, and they must be a Meridian resident. And then other than that, it was dates and times available and paperwork. People did suggest some partnerships, and it's categorized into 3 different areas. The first one is current contacts, and those are the ones that we're already reaching out to and asking them to submit an application for funding. And that was mental health, childcare, and Jesse Tree for emergency rental assistance. And then additional outreach suggestions for this time around. People were asking about public transportation and potentially credit repair. And then there was also an ineligible activity for clothing for teens. That's just not something that we could fund through this. We had a couple of in-person interactions. 2 of those are public hearings, and 1 of those is tonight. And also last week, we were out in the community 2 different times. Once was in the lobby of City Hall, and then we also had a booth at the Do the Right event. And with that, we had an activity where people could vote on the services that they thought were most important. And this is a little bit different than the other voting or on the survey. In the survey, it was people actually needing those. And this is just the perception of what's needed in the community. So we did receive 83 individuals participating, and they each got 4 coins. And so it was a total of 332 votes. And intimate partner violence, that was 25% of the votes. And then childcare and emergency rent were each 24%. That didn't quite add up. So there's something wrong there, but it was definitely the intimate partner violence followed by childcare and emergency rent. Our timeline for the rest of the action plan, it's due to HUD no later than August 16th. So the application is open through the end of this month. And in May, then we'll work with our scoring committee to review the application, select projects, and develop our action plan. It will be developed, and then June 11th through July 14th, it will be open for public comment, and I'll be back here for a public hearing. And I hope to have it approved by all of you and submitted to HUD by the end of July. And with that, I'll stand for questions.
Thank you, Crystal. Council, any questions?
Mr. Mayor,
Councilwoman Schrader.
not a question, just a comment. It feels like you're getting a lot of public engagement, which is very encouraging. And I think your different approaches to try to get that feedback is really working. So I just wanted to compliment you on how you're trying to engage the community on this.
Councilman Cavanagh.
Action tonight is just to close the public hearing.
Correct.
Mr. Mayor.
Is there anybody present who'd like to provide testimony on this open public hearing? Seeing nobody.
Mr. Mayor.
Councilman Cavanagh.
Appreciate a little presumptive on my end to not see the usual suspects want to testify this evening, but I appreciate that opportunity. And boy, to Councilmember Strader's point, this wonky stuff is hard to engage the public on. And Crystal, I really want to commend you. Last week when we had the event for Councilmember Borton and with the art gallery, you were out with the jars and the coins. I just thought it was a very low barrier approach to get people to engage, and just encourage you to keep doing stuff like that and finding that right nexus of inviting feedback and critical feedback. And I appreciate that you share it with us. So, Mr. Mayor, I move we close the public hearing on item 13.
Second.
I have a motion second to close the public hearing. Is there any discussion? If not, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. The ayes have it, and the public hearing is closed. Next item up is the executive session. Councilwoman Schrader.
Mr. Mayor, I move that we go into executive session per Idaho Code 74-2061D.
Second.
I have a motion second to go into executive session. Is there any discussion? If not, clerk call the roll.
Cavanagh, Little Roberts, Taylor,
Aye.
Overton,
Aye.
Strader,
Aye.
All ayes, motion carries. We'll move into executive session. Council, do I have a motion?
Mr. Mayor, I move that we adjourn the meeting.
Move we come out of executive session?
Yes, so moved.
And a second?
Second.
A motion second to come out of executive session. All in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. The ayes have it. We are out of executive session. Now do I have another motion?
Mr. Mayor, I move that we adjourn the meeting.
Motion to adjourn. All in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. The ayes have it. We are adjourned. Council will call this meeting to order. For the record, is April 9th, 2024, at 6:08 PM. We'll begin tonight's regular city council meeting with roll call attendance.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Councilman Cavanagh. Councilwoman Little Roberts. Councilman Taylor.
Here.
Councilman Overton.
Here.
Councilwoman Strader. Mayor Simonson.
Here. Next item up is the Pledge of Allegiance. If you'd all please rise and join us in the pledge.
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Tonight's community invocation will be delivered by Rabbi Mendel Lifshitz. If you'd all please join us in the community invocation or take this as a moment of silence and reflection.
Thank you. Before I begin, I would like to take a moment to personally thank the City Council and the City Meridian. A number of months ago, you graciously donated the stock of protective vests. And I really want to thank the body here for authorizing that and for allowing that to be used in a public-private partnership. It's really beautiful when the city joins together with nonprofits. Thank you for donating those to our organization, and you should be proud that it has reached its destination for people in need. Almighty God, we stand before you at a critical time for our country, our state, and our city. Your guidance, wisdom, and grace is ever more crucial. We recognize that alone we cannot succeed. Almighty God, look favorably upon the mayor and honorable members of the City Council of the great city of Meridian. Bestow upon them the joy of life, good health, and prosperity. We beseech you, merciful God, to extend your kindness to these distinguished individuals who have been chosen to make laws and ordinances for the citizens of this city with understanding and compassion in their noble pursuit of justice and equality. Assist them to embody and encourage a spirit of mutual cooperation, respect, and peace. Give them guidance so that they will always be conscious of your presence and will strive to enact laws with honesty and integrity in accordance with the values of your universal moral code. As the cold and sometimes harsh winter recedes, we look at the promising spring bloom, and we look toward you, our Creator. We stand in awe and appreciation of the masterful and beautiful world you allow us to partake of. We stand committed to partnering with you to tend your garden and to safeguard your creation. Grant this august body the wisdom to turn adversity into opportunity and to transform the hard challenges we face today into the seeds from which will sprout the growth of tomorrow. Bless the city of Meridian that it may serve as a beacon of light to our great state of Idaho and for people of all faiths and walks of life. May the leaders and citizens of Meridian blossom as the flowers of the season and realize the goal so powerfully stated in our nation's Pledge of Allegiance that we just recited, so that America is truly one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. May God bless all of us, and God bless America. Now let us say amen.
Thank you. Okay, next up will be adoption of the agenda.
Mr. Mayor,
Councilwoman Schrader.
I move that we adopt the agenda as published.
Second.
I have a motion and a second to adopt the agenda as published. Is there any discussion? If not, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. The ayes have it, and the agenda is adopted. Next up will be a proclamation for Week of the Young Child. Is Florina here? If you wouldn't mind joining me at the podium? So council, we will go ahead and read this proclamation for the Week of the Young Child and then turn it over to Florina for some comments. Whereas the City of Meridian, in conjunction with the Idaho Association for the Education of Young Children, are celebrating the Week of the Young Child, April 6th through 12th, 2024. And whereas Idaho AUYC is working to promote and inspire high-quality early childhood experiences for our state's young citizens that can provide a foundation of learning and success for children in Meridian. And whereas teachers and others who work with or on behalf of young children from birth through age 8 make a difference in these lives and deserve thanks and recognition. And whereas public policy supporting early learning for all are crucial to young children's futures, to the prosperity of our society. And whereas this is a time to recognize the importance of children's earliest years in shaping their development, to recommit ourselves to ensuring that each and every child experiences the type of environment at home, at childcare, at school, and in the community that will promote early learning. Therefore, I, Mayor Robert E. Simpson, proclaim April 6th through 12th, 2024 to be the Week of the Young Child in the City of Meridian, and encourage all citizens to work to support the efforts of the Idaho AUIC and in AUIC and support and invest in early childhood in our community at this 9th day of April, 2024.
Sure. Sorry, I wasn't expecting it. I just want to thank the city council, mayor. Thank you all for the proclamation and just for thinking of helping support children and families throughout the state of Idaho. I think it's incredible work and extremely exciting, and we know that everyone can help make a huge difference in the life of a child. So thank you.
Next item up is public forum. Madam Clerk, do we have anybody signed up under the public forum?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. No one has signed up.
Okay. And with that, we'll move on to item 2, which is Department Commission Reports, election of City Council President, and I'll turn this over to Councilwoman Schrader.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Fellow council members, this is an important business decision that we have to make today as a council. I know we still have one council seat that is open, but I think it's really important for us to elect a city council president because we have a lot of critical processes that need to move forward, including the budget. After many conversations, I would like to nominate Luke Kavanagh. I think he's the right leader for us at this time of transition. And I'm very grateful for him that he is willing to make the sacrifice of a significant amount of his extra time to help us move forward as a group. That means a lot to us. He has my full support. I think we should rally around Luke, and that way we can have a successful year.
Thank you. I have a nomination.
Second.
And a second. Is there further discussion on the topic or further nominations from the body? Okay. Then all those in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Opposed, nay. The ayes have it. And Councilman Cowner, you are now Council President. Would you like to do a speech, a coronation, gala? What's your
Mayor,
preference?
No
Councilman
speech, no gala, no coronation. We've got important work ahead of us, so appreciate the nomination and the vote. Enjoy working with all of you. Thank you.
Thank you very much. All right, so moving on to the rest of our action this evening. The first item up is item 3, public hearing. Oh,
Just for clarification,
Yeah.
do we need to take an action on the vice president role?
nope, it's existing.
Okay, great. Fair enough. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Next item up is item 3, public hearing for the Oaks North number 1, lots 11 through 12, block 7, H 2024-004. We'll open this public hearing with staff comments.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. I'm Linda Ritter, Associate Planner for the City of Meridian. And tonight we are here for the Oaks North, number 1, lots 11 and 12, block 7, H-2024-0004. The applicant is requesting to vacate 5 feet of a public utility pressurized irrigation and drainage easement located along the interior lines of lot 11 and 12, block 7 of the Oaks North subdivision. A property boundary adjustment application, PBA-2023-0015, was approved in November of 2023 to reestablish the easements. So these properties that I have mentioned are located at 5662 and 5684 West Daphne Drive. And they're located on 0.156 and 0.14 acres of land that is zoned R8. There are currently no structures located on this property at the time. The applicant was proactive to make this happen before the homes were built. And so at this time, so staff is asking for approval of this proposal. And so at this time, I will take any questions that you may have, and the applicant representative is here if you have questions.
Thank you. Linda, council, any questions for staff? Okay, would the applicant like to come forward and make any comments? Okay, applicant waives. Madam Clerk, anyone want to sign up to provide testimony on this item?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I have a couple people signed up, but they did not mark that they wish to testify. Do you want me to still call
Yeah,
them?
if you just want to read their name and we'll see if they want to come up.
Chris Moncapa?
Applicants
Okay.
waived.
Hank? Over?
He's also saying no. Are those the only two?
That's the only 2, yes.
Okay. Is there anybody present in the audience or online who would like to provide testimony on this item? If you're online, use the raise your hand feature on the Zoom call and we can bring you in. Seeing no one raising their hand online and no one walking forward, applicant waive final comments? Applicant waives final comments. Council, what's your direction?
Mr. Mayor,
Councilman Overton.
this seems like a pretty straightforward vacation request. And if there's no further public comments, I move that we close the public hearing.
Second.
Have motion and seconds to close the public hearing. Is there any discussion? If not, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. The ayes have it, the public hearing is closed.
Mr. Mayor,
Councilman Overton.
after considering all staff, applicant, and public testimony, I move to approve file number H-2024-0004 as presented in the staff report for the hearing date of April 9th, 2024.
Second?
I have a motion and a second to approve item 3. Is there discussion? If not, clerk call the roll.
Kavner?
Aye.
Little Roberts?
Aye.
Taylor?
Aye.
Overton?
Aye.
Strater?
Aye.
All ayes, motion carries. The item is agreed to. Thank you very much. Next item up is item 4, public hearing for Keep West subdivision number 2, H 2023-0047. We'll open this public hearing with staff comments.
Thank you. Again, Linda Ritter, Associate Planner for the city. So tonight we're here to, for a request for Keep West subdivision, H-2023-0047. It's for annexation and preliminary plat. The site consists of 16.25 acres of land zoned RUT, and it's located south of East Lake Hazel Road. So the property itself is zoned, the future land use map is low density and medium density residential. And since the property is designated with 2 land use designation, the plan allows the flexibility to float the more dominant designation. And the applicant has chosen to apply the low density designation across the entire property. Again, this is the annexation of 16.25 acres of land from RUT in Ada County to R2, low-density residential zoning district and a preliminary plat consisting of 21 new buildable lots and 1 existing home and 8 common lots for a total of 15.76 acres of land. The density is 1.4 dwelling units to the acre, which is consistent with the LDR designation. The proposed building lots range in size from 12,008 square feet to 38,274 square feet. The subdivision is being proposed to be developed in 1 phase. Again, there is an existing structure that is on the property, and there are several other structures on the property, but the existing home is proposed to remain. All the other structures are proposed to be removed. So prior to the city engineer's signature on the final plat, all the existing structures that don't comply with setbacks of the district shall be removed. A new address will be required for the existing home, and the lot number for the existing home will need to be changed to 35 and the renumbering of the remaining lots in that location. So this proposed plat complies with the dimensional standards of the district. So again, the proposed subdivision is required to comply with the design improvement standards of the UDC. The face block on the west side of the North and South Street segments exceed 750 feet. However, the code allows a block length up to 1,000 feet when a pathway connects to the common space open area, and the applicant has provided a connecting pathway to the open space to allow the extended block. And also per the UDC, the council may approve a dead-end street up to 750 feet in length where the emergency access is proposed or where there is a physical barrier such as a steep slope, railroad tracks, an arterial roadway, or a large waterway that prevents or makes impractical extensions, and where the pedestrian connection is provided from the street to an adjacent existing or planned pedestrian facility. The cul-de-sac for the proposed plat, it was greater than 900 feet, which exceeded the maximum approval allowed by the city council of 750 feet in length. The applicant revised the plat map to shorten the length of the cul-de-sac and submitted the revised plat map 15 days prior to this meeting. So access to this property is proposed via East Wickham at the east boundary of the site, which terminates onto South Netherfield Way. Direct access is not proposed or allowed from East Lake Hazel Road except for an emergency access. There are 2 common driveways proposed for lots 22, 23, 20, and then 27 and 28. There are 2 waterways along the boundaries of this proposal. The far latter existing on the western boundary is within a 50-foot easement, and the Grimmett lateral along the eastern boundary, the east boundary, which is within the 40-foot easement. The UDC requires irrigation easements wider than 10 feet to be included in a common lot that is a minimum of 20 feet wide outside of a fenced area unless modified by the city council at a public hearing with notice to the surrounding property owners. The applicant proposed to place the far and the grommet laterals within common lots as required. However, the applicant will be requesting a modification of this, and they will present that to you at the time they do their presentation. All other irrigation ditches crossing the site that aren't being improved as a water amenity or linear open space as defined by the UDC shall be piped or otherwise covered as set forth in the UDC unless otherwise waived by the city council. Again, the applicant has been working to tile a portion of the Grumman lateral and has been working with the Boise Project Board of Control for approval. The far lateral will remain open. If tiled, the Boise Project Board of Control will not approve any landscaping other than gravel within its 25-foot easement. Staff has asked the applicant to work with the irrigation district to leave the Grumman lateral open in a natural state to avoid the area being improved with gravel only. There is a 25-foot wide landscape buffer that is required along East Lake Hazel Road, which is in an arterial, and it's measured from the back of the sidewalk. A buffer is depicted on the landscape plan that appears to meet this requirement. So this is the landscape along East Lake Hazel Road. The buffer has been depicted on the plat in a common law as proposed within the landscape and purchase standards of the UDC. Common open spaces and amenities, the applicant is proposing about 1.37 acres of open space consisting of 50% of the street landscape buffered along East Lake Hazel Road, 6-foot wide parkways, pathway along the emergency access, and open grassy areas. The applicant provided 9.41%, which is 59,596 square feet, or 1.37 acres of open space, which exceeds the 8% that is required. Per the UDC, for each 5 acres of gross land area, 1 point of site amenity is required. As the property is 15.76 acres, a total of 3 amenity points are required. The applicant is proposing a covered pavilion, which is a picnic area, and that's for 2 points. A sports court for pickleball, which is 4 points, as these amenities total 6 amenity points, which exceeds the requirement. Several building conceptual elevations of homes were submitted and as shown, building material consists of a variety of stone, brick, veneer accents, and stucco. So at the Planning Commission meeting, there were no oppositions to this subdivision, proposed subdivision. We did have people making comments at the hearing, and we had one written testimony, and the concerns that were key issues were the proposed street connectivity that, because they felt it would bring additional traffic to the existing neighborhood. Go back to previous slide. This is the connection that they were concerned with. And the only discussion or key issue by commission was that they were required to bring the cul-de-sac into compliance prior to the city council meeting, which they did. There were no changes recommended, no changes to staff recommendation, and there were no outstanding issues to bring before the city council. And at this time, I will stand for any questions that the city council has regarding this application.
Thank you. Council, any questions?
Mr. Mayor.
Councilwoman Schrader.
Hi, Linda. Thank you so much for your presentation. I reviewed the file a while ago and I did not see a letter from the West Ada School District, but I also did not check the agency reports today. So just wanted to check, have we received a letter from West Ada or are we in communication with them?
I have not received anything from them. It did go out to them, but I have not received anything. I don't know if it's too small of a subdivision, but I have not received anything.
Mr. Mayor.
Councilwoman Schrader.
Got it. And I apologize because I wasn't meant to trip you up or anything. It's just we've been expressing our desire to hear from the West Ada School District, and this particular annexation opportunity is in very close proximity to another one that we've reviewed recently. So I felt like, I guess I'm a little surprised that they haven't taken that opportunity to provide that information here. Although I understand it is not a huge subdivision, it still seems important to hear from them. Thank you.
Council, any additional questions for staff?
Mr. Mayor.
Councilman Cavanagh?
Linda, I appreciate you've got this, this image up. And as you're doing a good job going through the staff report and keeping us up to date on history, I appreciate that. I noticed that the exhibit of the open space looks a little bit different than the preliminary plat that's in the staff report. I'm not sure if that is because of the cul-de-sac piece or if the plat is showing what appears to be maybe some pathways. The reason why I'm bringing this up is that one of the parcels that I think is kind of near the open space, and I believe the existing home, I'm trying to figure out how the parcel land that's right just to the left of your arrow, down a little bit, right there, yep. How somebody's getting there. Is it a common drive? Like I said, in the staff report, it looks like a pathway, but I'm not quite clear.
So, Councilmember, so that's actually a panhandle lot. And that particular lot has to provide a fire turnaround because of the length of it. And we have relayed that to the applicant.
Hear from them then. Thank you, Linda. I appreciate it.
Council, any additional questions for staff at this time? Okay, will the applicant like to come forward?
Oh, and before the applicant speaks, so this is different from what is in my staff report. I didn't get a chance to change it out. So, but that's why I made sure that I put the correct ones up here for the hearing.
Good evening. It's nice to see a representative of the Borton Lakey Law Firm here at council.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'm short Borton, but still in the name. Mayor, council members, appreciate the opportunity to be here tonight. For the record, my name is Todd Lakey with Borton Lakey Law, here on behalf of the applicant, Jaron Langston. Council members, I'll be brief. Some of the high points on this project, but we do appreciate the recommendation of approval and the work that staff's done on this, and also the recommendation from the Planning and Zoning Commission. And if you do have any particular technical questions, we have Ted Burke, our engineer, here as well to answer questions. Council members, as noted in the staff report, the application meets the requirements of your zoning ordinance, your subdivision ordinance, and we conform with the comprehensive plan. We're a little bit less dense than those things that are around us. And this is phase 2 of the Keep subdivision. I imagine you're familiar with that project. This will be a continuation of that project, the same quality, the same caliber of development. It's really a project that the city of Meridian can be proud of. Our request is for low density R2 zoning. And as I said, that's the same or less dense than the surrounding zoning in our adjacent subdivisions. We have R4, R2, R8, and R15. 22 lots with just about a 20,000 square foot average lot size. And staff mentioned the gross density at 1.46. We exceed the open space requirements with our pathways, our covered pavilion, the sport court, and the grassy areas, and also exceed the amenity points required by the city. And that's in addition to the larger lots that we have that people are going to be able to use and recreate on their own property, in addition to those amenities in the subdivision. The 3 accesses for the property will be closed with the exception of the emergency access that will be provided onto Lake Hazel. That access will meet city requirements, but also provides pedestrian connectivity to Lake Hazel from the project. We'll have the 25-foot landscape buffer along Lake Hazel. And we are, as was mentioned by staff, trying to leave open the irrigation facilities that border this project. It's an odd-shaped parcel, as you can see, so it took a little bit of creativity to make this project work. And From our perspective, I think from staff's perspective and some of our neighbors' perspective, they wanted to keep those irrigation laterals open and make them really more of an amenity than simply a long, wide, what looks like a gravel road separating two projects. So that was our effort with the irrigation jurisdictions. And we are keeping the Grimmett lateral open to the north of that East Wickham Street. That's what we worked out with them. And then the far lateral on the side with the Apex subdivision will be open in its entirety. We do agree with the conditions in the development agreement, the recommendations of approval. As requested by staff, we did reduce that distance for the cul-de-sac to 750 feet, so we fit with the Uniform Development Code. We do that because we have that emergency access, and then we're also providing that connectivity from that street to the other pedestrian facilities, particularly along Lake Hazel, and then widen that access, that attenuation or extension of that cul-de-sac back to that open area common space, so it's a little bit wider, provide that additional pedestrian connectivity. With that, Mayor, council members, again, appreciate the efforts on staff's part. We ask for your approval. We'll be happy to answer questions if you have them.
Right, thank you. Council, questions for the applicant?
Mr. Mayor,
Councilman Cavanagh.
appreciate you laying some of that out. Be continuing Councilmember Strader's question for staff. Have you or your client engaged and had any conversations with the West Ada School District about, not so much about student generation, I don't anticipate this development would generate a lot of students, but particularly about where they would be slated to attend school?
You give me just a moment, I can maybe talk about the specifics up there.
Great, thank you.
Maybe when that's occurring, Mr. Parsons, do we have an idea when the school district plans to start transmitting letters on the ones that they have yet to do, let alone moving forward?
Mayor, members of the council, I don't have a specific date, but I know it's imminent based on the discussions that the joint meeting that you had with them. What I can tell you is based on some of the emails that I've seen on this topic, the school district plans on providing letters for developments that are 45 or more lots. And so in these types of situations, you may not get any comments from the school districts because they are under that threshold. So I just wanted to let mayor and council know that there will be a threshold moving forward. But yeah, we can start expecting to see more and more letters in the near future.
Okay, thank you.
Mayor and Councilmember Cavanagh, appreciate the question. We did not have any specific conversations with West Ada, and appreciate the comments from staff on kind of their threshold. I will say or will note, this is a smaller project at 22 lots, but I think it's also worth noting this is a type of project that's going to be well above your homeowner's exemption and contribute more than your typical standard subdivision from a property tax standpoint to the school district.
Council, any additional questions? Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you, Mayor, council members.
Madam Clerk, we have anyone sign up to provide testimony on this item?
Mr. Mayor, we have no one signed up.
Okay. Is there anybody present that would like to provide testimony on this item, either in the room or online? If you're online, use the raise your hand feature. Second. All right, seeing no one coming forward and no one raising their hand, would the applicant like to make any additional comments? So council, will turn this back to you for further dialogue.
Mr. Mayor,
Councilman Overton.
Mr. Lakey, I just got to tell you that it's a little refreshing to have a project in front of us with this low of a density, because that's not what we tend to see anymore. And when I first saw this, I had to read it twice to make sure I wasn't seeing a typo. I think it's perfect for that area as a phase 2 of the keep. It's already there. It looks beautiful. I think this will be like the missing puzzle piece going next to it and won't add a lot of traffic trips onto Lake Hazel because of it. I think it looks like a really well-done project, and it's going to be a great addition to our community.
Mr. Mayor.
Councilwoman Schrader.
I really like the estate lot product. I think it's a nice addition to Meridian and does help us, provide something a little bit different. The only area I'm struggling, and it's not actually something that the applicant can solve, but we do have concerns about school overcrowding in another development that is close by this area. And I think it is going to be important for us to find some sort of a consistent philosophy in how we're approaching that issue. I do take a lot of comfort from our joint meeting with the West Ada School District, where we asked them directly, what do you need from us? And they felt confident that they still had all the tools available to try to manage the student population. I expect them to rise to the occasion and do that. I think the answer for some of these where it is really overcrowded is less density, and you've already got that. So that gets me comfortable with this one. I don't have any major concerns, but again, it's more of just a philosophy kind of conversation about how we're going to be approaching these in this area, particularly where Mountain View is extremely overcrowded and we have some other issues like that. Even with a student generation rate, which I don't even think this would probably reach of, even half of a student per unit, it's a very manageable number. So again, I'm okay with this one, but I think getting that feedback from West Ada really closely on these going forward is going to be important for us.
Mr. Mayor,
Councilman Cavanagh.
this one to me is a little bit of for me, going to be an exercise of discipline. First, to keep game changer for South Meridian. Appreciate you being forward thinking and investing your dollars to bring something to South Meridian that many in our community have been asking for. I love driving past it. Hope one day maybe I could live there. And to Councilmember Overton's point, it is refreshing to see something that's different. We talk a lot about diversity, and oftentimes diversity means density. And it's nice to see something that is less dense. I struggled a little bit with kind of location of open space and the alley load side. But given the really unique geographical challenges, I think you have really put together something that works with a very limited canvas. Just being up front where I'm struggling is that Mountain View High School, Victory Middle School are over capacity. And I have no doubt that if this is built, will help alleviate in terms of providing extra funding to the district long-term. That's a school that has been really challenged for a long time and continues to be challenged. And I can't get frustrated about higher density products that are putting students into an overcrowded school and say, well, this is not as many, so it kind of makes it okay. So I wish we had the magic wand to solve the challenges that are going in the schools, again, challenges that are not your making, but you're kind of at the tail end and being forced to address. I'm not going to be supportive this evening, and it's not because I don't want this and I don't want more of this. It's that for me, I don't think it is the right time given the challenges that our school district has currently faced. And frankly, it pains me because I want to encourage more of this, particularly in South Meridian.
Council, any additional questions, comments? Close the public hearing.
Mr. Mayor,
Councilman Overton.
there's no more public testimony. I move we close the public hearing.
Motion to close the public hearing in a second. Thank you. All in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. The ayes have it, the public hearing is closed.
Mr. Mayor,
Councilman Overton.
after considering all staff, applicant, and public testimony, I move to recommend to approve file number H2023-0047 as presented in the staff report for the hearing date of April 9th, 2024.
Second?
I have a motion and a second to approve item 4. Is there discussion on the motion? If not, clerk call the roll.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Cavanagh,
No.
Little Roberts,
Aye.
Taylor,
Aye.
Overton,
Aye.
Strader.
Aye.
4 ayes, 1 nay, and the item is approved. Thank you very much. Have a good evening. Okay. Next item up is item 5, public hearing for Roslyn subdivision, H 2023-0056. We will open this staff hearing, or this public hearing for staff comments.
Good evening, Mr. Mayor and members of the council. The applicant is here to present their project for Roslyn subdivision. The applications that were submitted are annexation and combined preliminary final plat. The site consists of 0.733 acres of land. A small portion of right-of-way is currently zoned RUT, and the larger piece of the property is zoned R8, and it's located at 200 East Roslyn Drive. History on the property, there was a short plat that was approved and a right-of-way vacation instrument number. The comprehensive plan flume designation is low-density residential. This designation is intended to allow for the development of single-family homes on large estate lots at gross density of 3 dwelling units or less per acre. This property was annexed in 2005 with an R8 zone and granted approval for a step-up in density, which was allowed under the previous comprehensive plan. This policy was removed from the comprehensive plan in the 2019 update. The applicant is proposing to annex 0.014 of an acre of land with an R8 zoning district, including the remaining portion of East Roslyn Street cul-de-sac right-of-way. A legal description and exhibit map for the annexation area is included with the application. The property is within the city's area of city impact boundary. The applicant proposes a 6-lot subdivision for 6 single-family residential detached homes. Since the majority of the property is already annexed and zoned with an R8 district, staff must analyze the project based on the merits of the governing zoning district regardless of the proposed density. The proposed preliminary plat consists of 6 building lots and 1 common lot on 0.733 acres property in the existing R8 zoning district. Proposed lots range in size from 4,060 to 5,219 square feet. The subdivision is proposed to develop in 1 phase. An existing home on the property is proposed to be removed from the site. Any outbuildings located on the site should be removed with the development of the property. The proposed plat and subsequent development are required to comply with the dimensional standards listed in the UDC. The proposed plat appears to comply with the dimensional standards of the district. And per the UDC, lots taking access from a common drive do not require street frontage. Access is proposed from East Roslyn Drive and a common driveway on Lot 6, Block 1. The interior lots 3, 4, 5, and 7, Block 1 are proposed to take access via a common drive to East Roslyn Drive, meeting the street access requirements of the UDC. Common driveways shall serve a maximum of 4 dwelling units, and in no case shall more than 3 dwelling units be located on one side of a driveway. The applicant is proposing 6 dwelling units with 4 taking access off the common driveway. 3 dwelling units are also located on one side of the driveway in accordance with the UDC requirements. Off-street parking is required to be provided in accordance with the standards listed in the UDC for single-family dwellings based on the number of bedrooms per unit. Staff will confirm compliance with these standards at the time of building permit submittal for each residence. There are no street buffers required along local streets per the UDC table. The applicant has provided a landscape plan, and that actually is not required per the UDC. East Roslyn Drive is improved with an existing 5-foot wide attached concrete sidewalk abutting the site in accordance with the UDC standards. All fencing is required to comply with the UDC standards, and according to the submitted plans, the applicant is not proposing fencing with this project at this time. 2 conceptual building elevations were submitted that demonstrate what future homes in this development will look like. Variations that appear to be single-story and 2-story detached homes with a 2-car garage are proposed. The submitted elevations depict several different architectural and design styles with field materials of lap siding, different colors, accents, roof profile, stone, and front porches. The summary from the commission hearing: in favor was the applicant from Givens Pursley. In opposition was Jan Laria, Paul Pelletier, Ken Fries, and Nick Nosler. Commenting again is the applicant from Given Pursley. Written testimony: multiple letters of written testimony were submitted and can be found in the record online. Key issues discussed at the commission public hearing: the comprehensive plan depicts the property as low-density residential in the future land use map. There are too many lots proposed within the subdivision. Lots smaller than 5,000 square feet should not be proposed for a development this small. Concerns with additional traffic and noise. Key issues of discussion by commission were none. Commission changes to staff report is none. Outstanding issues for city council are none. And written testimony since the commission hearing, we received a letter from Robin Hatcher with concerns with increased traffic and the density proposed on the lot. And that concludes staff's presentation, and I stand for any questions.
Thank you. Council, questions for staff?
Mr. Mayor,
Councilman Overton.
Stacy, just to make sure I understand correctly, when it comes to sidewalks, it lists East Roseland Drive is improved with an existing 5-foot wide attached concrete sidewalk abutting the site. The only sidewalks going in are the ones abutting this actual site. We're not improving the roadway of Roseland out to the west to Meridian Road.
Mr. Mayor, Councilman Overton, yes, that is correct. So that sidewalks is existing and none are required along the common drive, and no roadway improvements are happening with this project. The applicant is annexing the cul-de-sac that is in the area on the plan. Maybe I can't, it's not on the plan here. That was basically left to be a cul-de-sac at one time, but that didn't happen for those projects that were developed in that area.
Thank you.
Mr. Mayor,
Councilman Schrader.
question for you, but if you're unable to answer it, the applicant hopefully could address it, but help me zero in on what part of the property is already annexed and what part of the property is not. I think that's going to be really important tonight.
Mr. Mayor, Councilwoman Strader, so I don't have a really good picture. I believe the applicant's, she does in her presentation, that you can see the cul-de-sac to the south. So this whole area on this plat that's proposed is already annexed as R8. It's just a little piece of right-of-way that ACHD owned that was supposed to be a cul-de-sac. That is no longer taking place, so we asked them to annex that piece in to clean up the GIS map and zoning, so that wasn't left in the county.
Mr. Mayor.
Councilman Schrader.
So when the Roslyn subdivision was originally annexed, was this a preliminary plat that came through and was reviewed by council at that time? And were there 6 dwelling units at that time? Or help me understand, sorry, and it's kind of a convoluted question. What I'm getting at is, just to be very upfront, I don't like step-ups in density. I was very happy that that policy was eliminated in our comprehensive plan update. And so I'm hesitant to do those unless I'm told legally we're forced to. But I just want to understand, if I'm looking at this property, like which, what was kind of approved in the original annexation?
Mr. Mayor, Councilwoman Strader, so the original annexation, I believe, was approved in 2005. I'm not 100% sure. But that piece of land, that whole area, actually, including the other subdivisions surrounding it, were all stepped up to R8. So they are completely surrounded by R8 subdivision. If you look at the flume designation in the center,
Mhm.
that entire area where those medium-density residential homes are low density on the flume designation. But if you look to the zoning, every one of those lots is zoned R8. So that entire area asks for a density bump up prior to the comp plan changes in 2019, where we no longer have that. However, we did make UDC changes to the code in 2016 to remove the density requirements for each residential zone. So there are no density requirements attached to each residential zone in our UDC code. However, it's based on dimensional standards. Can the applicant meet the 4,000 square foot lot and the street frontages?
Mr. Mayor,
Councilwoman Strader.
you don't mind, and I apologize because I'm sort of taking us down a rabbit hole, but before, we don't have density standards now, but we did before. So help me understand what the density, because I feel like what I'm worried about, I don't want to have have your cake and eat it too situation where the applicant is relying on the most advantageous parts of zoning and grandfathered in under step up, but at the same time avoiding the requirements that would have existed at that time. And I'm sorry, because it's kind of, and if you want to get back to me later in the hearing, totally fine. But my curiosity is just what would have been the density requirement at that time?
Mr. Mayor, Councilwoman Strader, so that entire area, including this lot, were zoned R8, so densities are 3 to 8 units per acre.
3 to 8.
Yes.
Thank you.
Bill, anything you want to add?
Mayor, members of the council, just a little bit more context. So on this particular property, so if Stacy, if you can have that aerial there, I can't see it on my screen, so I apologize, but if you see this particular property and then the common drive and the 3 lots to the east, that annexed in 2005 as one big lot. So as part of that, it was just one home on one lot, the way you're seeing it. And then in 2018, the previous owner subdivided even more and added the 3 lots. And we went through a short plat process that this council approved. And now we're left with this even smaller piece that is in front of you tonight to even subdivide it even further. Stacy also looked at the density for council tonight, and I believe that Larkspur came in at about 4.75 dwelling units to the acre. So that it did fall well within that density range of 3 to 8 as requested with the step up. I just at least wanted to give you that context that it was 1 lot, then it went to 4 lots, and now this 1 lot is going to 6 lots. But it's still, based on some of the discussion at the commission hearing as well, these lots are fairly compatible to the adjacent lots around this development. And we were able to verify that with the commission as well. So just at least wanted to let the council know that as well.
Mr. Mayor.
Councilman Cavanagh.
Stacey, you made a comment. I want to make sure that I heard it correctly, which is that the annexation element of tonight's application is because the city asked the applicant to annex that piece of highway district land in with their application. Is that what I heard correctly?
Mr. Mayor, Councilman Cavanagh, that is 100% correct. We wanted to clean up the map, and they also needed it in the southwest corner to complete their configuration, so their lot met the dimensional standards, one of their lots. And so ACHD agreed with them to allow them to obtain that piece.
Mr. Mayor, follow-up.
Councilman Cavanagh.
I think this kind of, for me at least, counts to the crux of the issue. The council were to recommend, if the council were to deny the annexation request, because the bulk of the land already has an annexation in zone that's been granted, they could build what is proposed. The only difference is we wouldn't clean up some of this highway district business. Is my reading of your staff report and your presentation accurate?
Mr. Mayor, Councilman Cavanagh, so if you do not grant the annexation for that little piece, that sliver, one of the lots will not meet the dimensional standards for the front yard or the garage layout. So I'm not sure if they're able to reorientate that house to make it work or not.
Thank
That
you.
was the main reason.
Maybe to ask a different way, Would they only be allowed then to do 5 lots potentially if that was the case?
Mr. Mayor, that would be correct. They would probably have to lose a lot because they couldn't meet the dimensional standards of the R8 zoning district.
Mr. Mayor,
Councilwoman Little Roberts.
what is the ACHD property that's being annexed currently used for, or is it just sitting there?
Mr. Mayor, Councilwoman Roberts, so again, it's just sitting there as you'll see it on the applicant's presentation. She blows it up nicely where everyone can actually get a look at what that we're talking about. It basically carved out as a roundabout that was never made a roundabout. It's just a regular local road. So there's just a piece that are sitting on people's properties that ACHD owned.
Thank you.
Council, any additional questions for staff?
Mr. Mayor,
Councilwoman Strader.
sorry, just one more. Help me understand the not proposing fencing. How, does that violate our policy? I wasn't really clear on whether that's like a violation of our policies or if you're just noting that.
Mr. Mayor, Councilwoman Strader, I was just noting it. They didn't propose any, but if they do in the future with the building permits, they need to meet the UDC code.
Okay, so it was just noting that at that time they would have to. Got it. Thank you.
Council, any additional questions for staff? Then would the applicant like to come forward? Good evening.
Good evening, Mayor, council members. Elizabeth Keckeritz with Givens Pursley, 601 Bannock. All right. Good evening. My name is Elizabeth Keckeritz. I am here on behalf of the applicant team tonight. I'm Land Use Counsel with Givens Pursley. With me tonight is Julie Bingham, who is one half of the applicant team. It's just a husband and wife. Brett Bingham is a local vet in the area. And so this is sort of their first foray into buying this infill lot and deciding to do something with it. They're the owners of the project. They're not career developers, but they felt like this was a great location and something that they wanted to look at doing. So let's go right into it. So this is the vicinity map. These go so fast for me. As you can see, this really is surrounded by development by the city of Meridian on all sides, except for there's a small portion that's completely directly to the west that is still Ada County. But the Ada County piece is completely surrounded by Meridian. If you look here, this is the exhibit. This is the annexation. Roslyn subdivision is a replat of a portion of the San Gorgonio, I think is maybe, I have no idea how to pronounce it, subdivision that was approved by the Meridian City Council in 2020. There's 3 homes to the direct east of this plat, where it was made very clear on the plat that this was the sort of the original parcel. The original home is standing there. I don't know who carved it off, but the 3 homes were then built along the eastern boundary of it, and this larger lot remained with the original home on it. The area highlighted in yellow is 0.01 acres, which is approximately 600 feet. That was the former ACHD right-of-way when this was intended to be a cul-de-sac that actually, I believe, didn't go at the time through out to the main street, but rather it dead-ended right there was the intention. But that little portion was ACHD right-of-way. that then has been, now the applicant went through the vacation process with ACHD, who was like, we didn't even know that we owned this small portion because they've been taking care of it. And it has been landscaped and it's just part of the streetscape there. And so this was recently vacated. And so then when you look at it, what the city asked us to do, in addition to the 600 square feet, was also just to clean up the whole cul-de-sac area just to clean up these boundaries and annex the larger area into it. As mentioned, the main property was annexed into the city in 2005. And for unknown reasons, the vacated property was not included in the annexation at the time. So that is why we're here today with the annexation request for that 600 acres. One other thing, I actually want to back up because I always start by thanking staff, because this truly, for being 6 lots, has gone rounds and rounds and rounds with coming in, meeting with Bill Neri, talking to staff, realizing we had to go to ACHD for a vacation, coming back, meeting with staff, not realizing until the last minute that this tiny sliver had not been annexed, adding an annexation, having another neighborhood meeting, proposing attached dwelling units, meeting with the neighbors, and finally settling on detached single-family neighborhood. And so we have worked really closely with Bill and Stacy and legal counsel and all sorts of people here to get to where we are. It was originally annexed and zoned into the property going onto the bigger parcel as R8. If you look at this parcel, you can see that what's directly to the north, to the east, and to the south is also zoned R8. And this does meet all of the R8 dimensional standards. This site is ideally situated for a small housing development. It does help meet the city's goal for housing. There is the sidewalk already existing along the road that was put in when the San Gorengino subdivision was originally approved in 2020. That's why there are no additional street improvements that are required to be made at this point in time. Based on the feedback, as I mentioned, originally there were 7 lots proposed, including duplex or townhomes along the back. But that has been now reduced to just the 3 homes along the back, 3 in the front. There is fencing. There currently exists fencing around the back of the property and also to the east where it abuts into those other 3 homes in the San Gorengino subdivision. There is fencing there, and that fencing is intended to stay. There were discussions about using that hammerhead then as emergency access through. That started getting very complicated, and so it's just been with this layout, we can leave it as is with the fence right there. It meets multiple goals of the comprehensive plan, including that it's infill development, it's prioritizing the development of vacant and underdeveloped parcels. All your public facilities are available. There's the infrastructure is already in place, and it does help support diverse housing throughout the city. I'm looking at the preliminary plat. It does qualify because it is small. It qualifies for the preliminary and final plat process. The dimensions meet all city code standards for the R8 as set forth in the code. One note in comment to Councilwoman Schrader's comment is that I don't believe if the annexation were denied that this exact plat could be approved. However, with a small shift over to the right of the private drive, a very similar plat could be approved. That would be almost identical to what's being presented here. It just would be without that 600 square feet of annexed property. There is public financial capability to support the project. They'll be paying all the required impact and other fees. There is property tax revenue coming from this. It overall is not a burden on the city. It really fits in well with all of the surrounding project. The traffic impacts are so small that ACHD's comment letter said we have nothing. We did not receive a school letter. The schools here are Sienna, is it Victory, and then Mountain View, which I do know are some of your more crowded schools here. The final plat is in conformance with the preliminary plat, all the requirements for the UDC for a final plat, and all the engineering, architectural, and surveying and required standards. Everything is being met here. They are looking at doing high-quality site and architectural design that does complement the surrounding neighborhood. They have craftsman-style architecture, front porch areas facing the street, complementary landscaping. And each home is actually, they're looking at doing 1.5, which is stories, which is really primarily 2 and 3 bedrooms on the main floor with a bonus room upstairs. And one of the things that the Binghams developed this for is they do have their older grandmother. They're looking at being able to live here in one of these units and not have to worry about stairs. There's sewer and water. We just have some aerial pictures here. Sewer and water is available. In speaking with the trash collection, they do, because of how this hammerhead is made, they will be able to go in and collect traffic from inside. The trash bin should not need to be all drug out to the street. And then we just did receive approval for the location of the mailbox, which will be right at where the hammerhead comes in. The access and parking, it meets all of the requirements. There's 2-car garages plus a parking apron for 2 cars for each one of these, for a total of 4. Let me see what the other. So yeah, and with that, we have reviewed the staff report, and we are in agreement with all of the conditions of approval. And so we are requesting approval for annexation and the combined preliminary and final plat. And I will stand for any questions.
Thank you, Elizabeth. Council, questions? Yeah. I'll go ahead and take a crack at the question since I won't be voting tonight, one way or the other. So when you look at what I thought I heard staff say was while the surroundings are R8, it's really about density of 5.96. Is that correct? Was that in the surrounding neighborhood? What? 4.75. Yeah, the fact that this isn't even on 1 acre, if you just extrapolate the numbers, I mean, you are pretty much on 8 homes per acre if you were to take this all the way up to an acre compared to the surrounding, which seems a little more than the surrounding neighborhoods. And I think if you use the 3 homes to the east, those 3 homes would almost take up this entire place where you have 6. But if you use the 4 homes to the north, you could fit those 4 and maybe 1 more. I guess my kind of just looking at round numbers and look at this, 5 seems to be like a right size number based upon the dimensional standards, based upon the surrounding area. Why would 5 not be a good fit for this location?
Mayor, that is a great question. One is because it can have more, and it does really nicely fit in. One of the things when you're dealing with the density, let me find this picture here. I went past it. This is so twitchy. It's here. Is that you look at some of these other developments that came in much larger, that have the roads going through them, that have public roads, they've got open space, things of that nature start taking away and making the density less. But if you were to just take this red square and slide it right up, directly up, you would actually have 1, 2, 3, 4, it looks like 8 houses on there. So it really is matching into really almost identical as to what is being directly to the north. There really is no difference in the density, in how it looks and feels. Because of the small size of it, it's not required to have those other amenities and things. It doesn't have the public road going through it that would have been required in a larger development. But in this case, when you just move that red square up, you can really see the size of the lot surrounding it. And then all of those green numbers are all lot sizes that are 5,000 square feet or less surrounding it.
I would bet you lunch that it doesn't fit. It would be more than an acre for those 8 straight above it. You could maybe in that direction get 6, but if you want to put money on it, I'll happy take the free lunch from you because it won't fit. That's more than an acre on those other, to get 8, the next 8, it's wider and it's taller. But point being, the 4 to the north are definitely different size than the 3 to the east, which goes back to my point, is you got a wide variety of product in this area that averages out to well below the dimensional standard that you're, because really if you proportion it out, the 6 is close to 8 per acre that's what the number comes out to, compared to the rest of everything around you, which is closer to 5 per acre. They have a lot more space to work with to average that out, but setting a point, I don't know if it's just the 0.733 or plus the annexation puts it up to 0.738. But just doing math and looking at pictures. That's all I'm doing and trying to understand. But the 6, when you got to shoehorn a house in sideways, to me says, are we really doing what we would normally do on a project like this? On a cul-de-sac, yes. On something that's not a cul-de-sac, it just seems a little awkward. It's like we're trying to make something fit that doesn't really fit. Okay, I've said my piece. There's you can respond if you want, but there's really no question. It's just a blanket comment for consideration.
Mr. Mayor.
Councilman Cavanagh.
Elizabeth, thanks for the presentation, and especially I always appreciate when staff asks for something, you try to be responsive. And so I think you've heard at least some initial deliberation. There's some real challenges, I think, for some members of council on this. And so I assume you forecast that. There was a little bit of conversation about this at planning and zoning. Is your client seeking that annexation request? You're ambivalent to it. If the request is granted, that's great. If not, it's no big deal. Help me kind of understand your motivation around that.
Mayor Simonson, Councilmember Cavanagh, that our client would like to have the property annexed because it's actually, I believe it's inside their current fence and they've been taking care of it for years, or for as many years as they've owned the property, which is just a couple of years. But also it helps square up the corners. I believe we still could come back with the dimensional standards for 6 on a pre-plat, that it would still work without this property, but it does make it easier by squaring that corner up.
Mr. Mayor.
Councilman Cavanagh.
Now we've got some public, they're going to provide some testimony, so I'm just going to cue this up for you. I'm not going to be supportive of the annexation request with 6 units. So I think that's a fair question for you to at least take back to your client, say, one council member that's not going to be supportive this way. And that'll give you guys some opportunity to discuss before you come back for closing comments. I know we've got some other council members who want to share their thoughts, but just trying to be fully transparent with you of where I'm going to be sitting tonight.
Mr. Mayor.
Councilman Taylor.
Elizabeth, thanks for the presentation. Just in terms of considering I'd say product type, the types of homes being presented here, high marks for creativity though, in fitting 6 units in a space like this. Can you just answer maybe 2 questions? Would you consider these almost like a patio home? And what's sort of the approximate square footage you are looking at? Because you mentioned stairs maybe for a bonus room only, but how would you sort of describe the type of home it is and kind of the square footage?
Mayor Simonson, Councilmember Taylor, they're very similar to a patio home, and estimated size is between 1,500 and 1,800 square feet. So really just the single floor, a bonus room upstairs, something for newer couples, older retirees, a place that you can lock and go. I mean, it's smaller yards. It's a really convenient little location there.
Mr. Mayor, quick follow-up.
Councilman Taylor.
Speaking of just sort of, there's no fences between homes, is this going to be something where people would take care of their home, or they'd have a part of the HOA would take care of the home or the landscaping? What's the intent?
Mayor Simonson, Councilmember Taylor, I believe the intent is there will be an HOA, but I believe the intent is for the individuals to take care of their own homes. There will certainly be, and there already is, they do intend on fencing these units. No fencing plan was required as part of this application, so none was provided. But there already is the standard, the taller fence along the back and on the east. And they'll be doing some sort of lower, sort of neighborhood-friendly fence between these units.
Between the units?
Council, any additional questions for the applicant? Okay, thank you, Elizabeth. Mr. Clerk, who do we have sign up on this?
I apologize if I mispronounced, but Jan Laria.
Good evening. If you can state your name and address for the record, and you'll be recognized for 3 minutes.
Jan Larea, 100 East Roslyn Drive. I am the owner of the 5 acres to the west of this property, and I am the one that has always mowed the cul-de-sac. That used to be a cul-de-sac. It was 4 houses on this road, and that was the end of the cul-de-sac. It didn't go any further. I take care of it because I mow all along the road, along my pasture. And now they're talking about not putting a fence between them and my pasture. So they're going to have a barbed wire fence and an electric fence on most of the houses there. It's too dense. I don't care if people want to build stuff on their property, but this is just too many houses. It'll fit 4 houses or 3 houses real nicely, and they'll still come out ahead. And I had to give them permission to even annex that because I own all that other property. And you're setting a precedence. I have 5 acres. Across the street, there's 5 acres undeveloped. We're Ada County. So when I die and the kids get the property, they can put 30 houses there. 5 times, 6. So you're kind of setting a precedence. I think it's a poor one for that area. That is not the kind of area that we want. That's it. Any questions? And the sidewalk was there from 2005 when Ron did all of the development behind there. I've been there since 75.
Councilman Over, I think we do have a question for you, Jen. Councilman Overton.
Thank you, Jan.
You're welcome.
I've lived here since 77, and I remember the Larea family living on Roseland Drive since then.
All
You
3
said
of
since
us.
1975.
Right,
That is still a unapproved road, correct?
correct.
No gutters, no sidewalks,
Nope.
no streetlights,
Nope,
all the way from where this project would be, all the way to Meridian Road.
correct. That's my land.
And did you just state that you would be more open to a development that was either 3 or 4 houses?
I would. They have a right to do with their property. I mean, everybody wants that right. They have a right to do that. I don't want to stop that. This is just too much. It's too much for the neighborhood. Put it down to 3 or 4.
Thank you, Jan.
And there. Welcome.
Thank you.
Mr. Mayor, Ken Freeze. Mr. Mayor, Ken is representing an HOA.
Good evening, Ken.
Mr. Mayor, council members, I'm speaking on behalf of and Lord help me trying to pronounce it, the San Gregorio HOA. That's about as close as I can get. I do have a PowerPoint to present to you that I'm going to contradict a lot that was said here. Can we get that up there? Thank you. So I think this current project as it's laid out is bad for a number of reasons. One, the development is not in line with Meridian's own comprehensive plan and future land use. Too many units for the current zoning, and it's out of character with the street. Now, I've heard a lot about the comprehensive plan. I've read a lot of it, and you know, it sort of strikes me that it was talking about its an effective vision and source document for the general public. We all want Meridian to be a premier place to live. I think everybody wants that. And it said a key component for the comprehensive plan and the development that occurs is the future land use map. Now, we've already seen it. Here it is again. X marks the spot where 200 Roslyn is. Future land use has this as a low density. And if you look right now, these lots basically match that zoning. These lots are all large lots. It's the lots right directly across the street. Putting another high density housing, trying to put as many as you can cram into a piece of property is not going to fit. It's actually a step backwards for the plan. Medium high density, I was looking at some of our neighbors. Ada County, R8 is lot size minimum is 5,000 square feet. Eagle is 5,000 square feet. Napa has a kind of a hybrid. It's an 8.5. It's 8,500 square feet. And Boise jumps from a 900 square feet for a home down to 3,500 feet for condos. Why did Meridian opt for 4,000 square feet? Well, you know, it gives developers some more options. I'm sure you've seen a lot of plans come across here. There's some weird shaped properties, and they have some weird things going across them. Trying to get that worked in with 8 units per acre can be a real challenge. Here's a plan that was approved, let's see, it was last year, I believe. And if you look there, you'll see that minimum lot size is 4,300 square feet, but the average lot size is over 6,000 square feet. Right there, 6,000 square feet. Now, this is going to be put, assuming that you approve the annexation, 0.733 acres, with each one having, according to the code, a minimum of 4,000 square feet. I believe, and granted this isn't chiseled anyplace, that the use of the 4,000 square foot lots in a lot that's less than an acre is really kind of an abuse of that 4,000 square foot when you look around and see everybody else has got 5,000 square foot. I think it's very appropriate for a larger development of several acres, especially when they're a weird shape, but I don't think it's appropriate in this particular project. If you look on the street, all these homes in green are over 5,000, and most of them are over 6,000. And the 3 lots that are directly across the street vary from 12,000 to 16,000 square feet. So trying to cram high density housing in that lot on this street, I think is the wrong place to do it. The other thing they have is this hammerhead, which I think is a real safety issue. And what I would propose for, again, safety for fire, emergency vehicle, is that they put 3 homes on that property. This gives adequate space for homes, for backyards, for front yards. It becomes much easier for the fire department to access, for emergency vehicles to access. Don't have to worry about a fire taking place and somebody have parked on that hammerhead, which I have to wonder who's going to keep that hammerhead policed to make sure there's no parking on it 24/7, because that's what it's going to take if you want to get an emergency vehicle in there at 3 a.m. in the morning. I think this system here of 3 homes would be much better. You can see it practically mimics the property lines directly across the street from it. I think 3 homes on this street would fit in very nicely. It would add to the street, and it wouldn't be another one of these, let's see how many homes we can cram into a lot type of development. HOA is not against the development. 6 homes, it's just too dense. We'd not be opposed to fewer homes, as I showed. I think 3 homes fits in there very nicely and is very appropriate for the neighborhood. Fewer homes would fit into the surrounding homes and really be a nice addition to the neighborhood. During this whole process, I've talked to a lot of people in the neighborhood, and I assured them that their voices would be heard. However, this is some of the comments I got from a lot of people. Can't fight City Hall. It's useless to try to do anything. The city only listens to developers. I really hope that that is not the case tonight. Thank you.
Mr. Mayor.
You have any questions for me?
You are going to probably have questions. Councilman Overton.
Ken,
Yes. Yes.
I've stood where you're standing for my HOA multiple times before I ever got on this council. And I've always found previous councils to listen to what people had to say.
That's what I've been telling people.
Okay, I just want to make sure I have that communication. with you.
I've come to a lot of council meetings. I hear what goes on. And I was assuring them, look, let the council write your letters. They will listen.
And Ken, can I also assume that the number of homes that you'd like to see on that lot is 3 homes? as you
3.
stated?
Yeah, I think 3 would be very nice there.
Thank you, sir.
Mr. Mayor.
Councilman Cavanagh.
Again, we always thank folks who represent HOAs. It's a hard gig. Also just want to appreciate your role on HPC, and you've been vocal on some stuff with that as well. So you spend a lot of time at City Hall, and I appreciate you kind of
Yeah.
share both sides as you meet with the public. Ken, has the HOA discussed if they would want this proposed development, if approved, to be part of your existing HOA, or is the homeowner association said we want them to be their own separate HOA?
The homeowners association hasn't expressed that either way. Right now, Amy Wetzel, who's the president, she does everything. They don't have a service or anything like that, and she's trying to save money. And it's just the 3 homes that are there now. Personally, I think they could get some synergy by adding 3 more homes to it. I'm not sure Amy would want to do that. Unfortunately, she couldn't be here tonight. She got tied up with work. It'd be easy to just turn around and ask her about that, because she really is the HOA.
Councilman Cavanagh.
So Ken, because you've been to a lot of these meetings, I know you've been involved in our communities, kind of maybe why I'm asking a more direct question, which is, this property is already received its annexation and its zone. They have entitled rights to develop within the zoning that's already been applied to them. Really, the big discussion for the council tonight is this small strip of land that's being proposed for an annexation. Help me understand, I mean, what I'm hearing from you is opposition to the totality of the development.
Correct.
Somewhat, that decision has already been addressed. We've got a plat that's before us, and there's limited basis for a denial of a plat. So again, it's back to this small strip of land that's an annexation request. So does the HOA have an opinion about where the council should be on that, on really what is the decision before us, which is approve or deny the small 1/10 of an acre annexation request?
Well, I would say if it prevents 6 homes from being built there, then yes, we'd be against it. But you're right on one level, they do have a right to build there. But you as a council have a responsibility to the people of the city to make sure that it's all done responsibly. And I think 6 homes on this piece of property in this area is not a responsible option. I think 3 homes, as I showed, would fit in very nicely there. And I think they could still make their profit because that's what this is all about. And I don't blame people for wanting to make money. We all need to make money. I just want something to be done responsibly that fits right with the neighborhood, and the neighborhood is being that street.
Thank you, Ken.
Thank you. Anything else?
No,
Okay,
thank you very much.
thank you.
Mr. Clerk, anyone else signed up?
That was everyone who signed up.
Okay, is there anybody else present who'd like to provide testimony on this item, either in the audience or online? For online, use the raise your hand feature. If you're in the audience, if you want to come forward. Okay, seeing no one raising their hand or coming forward, would the applicant like to come forward for any final remarks?
Mayor, City Council, Elizabeth Kekritz, Givens Pursley. So I have had an opportunity to speak with the applicant, and at this point in time, we do want to go forward with the annexation. That's something that they had worked very closely with the city on, based on the dimensional standards with or without that portion. It will just require a simple lot line adjustment on the northern boundary of that corner lot is what it looks like, and that they would still be able to get the 6 lots on this subdivision, which is what they are really looking at doing. They originally had looked at 7 lots. They'd had attached homes. They've made some real concessions based on working with the neighbors, talking more to the city, because it did actually work with, there's enough property here to get 7 lots that all meet the dimensional standards on this piece of property. At this point in time, it is a good little infill development. The services are all available to the development. And so we are asking for approval of the annexation and the preliminary plat at this time. Preliminary and final plat. I'll stand for any more questions.
Council, additional questions for the applicant?
Mr. Mayor.
Councilwoman Schrader.
Thanks, Elizabeth. So it sounded like this is your client's first development in the city of Meridian. I guess just to share some perspective, you could legally move forward without annexing that piece of property. It's your right. However, I would personally encourage you to think about being a good neighbor as part of your consideration, and think about a continuance to evaluate whether you could make it work with 5 units. You know, it's a partnership, and the city and developers and neighbors have all been partnering together for a long time. The most successful developers that I've seen long-term in the city of Meridian do try to make these compromises to get a better outcome for everybody. I think that we get a much better outcome for everybody when we try to seek that kind of compromise. So that's just a piece of perspective. You know, again, you could certainly try to move forward without that annexation of that little piece and see if you can manage to fit 6 lots. You might be able to, and you might not. I don't have a piece of graph paper to sit here with you to evaluate whether that's possible. I do feel like on the one hand, this was annexed, that decision was made. On the other hand, it's been a long time. And we've changed the direction that we're going as a city since before I think you got involved here. With our comprehensive plan update, we no longer allow step-ups in density. So there's been a big change in philosophy in the city of Meridian and how we approach these properties. If this was a brand new annexation, for me, I would really struggle with approving it. And I do feel like we have a little bit of opportunity to make a decision here. And unfortunately for the neighbors, and they need to understand that the outcome could be, if there was a denial, it's very possible that the developer will simply try to push forward. They may very well find a way to fit those 6 lots under what is legally allowed. But I do agree that at the end of the day, the citizens of Meridian need to rely on their city council to make the best decisions holistically for the city. And I don't feel like this is an appropriate transition for the surrounding neighborhood. The math that I am doing, and I know Councilman Cavanagh is doing on his phone, works out to be over 8 units per acre. That's kind of what I'm struggling with. You know, I feel like you're getting some of the benefit of the previous zoning and comprehensive plan, but maybe not owning all of the restrictions that would have come with it at that time. So that's just some feedback. You know, I'm likely a no tonight. And I'm sad about that because I would hope that, you know, you might seek a continuance and you might find a way to change your business plan a little bit and come back and be successful with everybody kind of in partnership. So that's just some feedback.
Mayor, Councilmember Strader, based on that feedback and Councilmember Kavanagh's, we would request a continuance just for a few weeks, just so that we can talk with the whole client team versus just part of it being here.
Okay. Do we have a time frame from which we want to look at? The 2 weeks, 3 weeks?
Do you mind if I grab my phone?
Not at all.
Mr. Mayor,
Councilman Overton.
while the applicant's doing that, I'd still like to get some more comments on the record tonight before that continuance.
Why don't you go ahead and make some great comments?
Mr. Mayor, I'm kind of looking at this a little bit differently, I think, than most of the folks tonight. Maybe similar to some of the residents on Roslyn. But one of the things that was very important to me when I came onto this council was traffic safety and transportation. And I just cannot in good conscience approve a development that's going to be an R8, that's going to be driving on low-density residential roads out to Meridian Road. There's, for bicycles and pedestrians, there is not a sidewalk, there's not a street light, there is no safe way for them to get down that roadway. And yet we're here tonight being asked to approve that. You're going to use a low-density residential road. I think we've heard it loud and clear. I think it needs to be built to low-density residential lots. We've heard from the residents close that they would go with 3 or even 4. And I think that's as much as I would ever get a yes vote for on this project.
Mr. Mayor,
Councilman Taylor.
just a question that came up to me for our fire department, Mr. Bongino. When I'm looking at this hammerhead, and Elizabeth, maybe you can help answer this question. So the way that this common driveway is, I'm kind of concerned about that public safety access in there a little bit. And the reason I say that is I know there's a 2-car garage and there's a parking apron for 4 cars, but I have a 2-car garage and there's no cars in it. I've got 2 cars. I got a 3rd car that I just bought for my teenage daughter, and I got a 15-year-old doing driver's ed who's going other directions with sports. I'm thinking there's going to be 4 cars there really quickly. Next to it, my neighbor's got 5 cars. Street allows it, but it gets pretty crowded. But I also live right across the road are a lot of patio homes. And there has been the fire department in that community. Every few months, there's elderly people there. And so as I'm looking at the product type, maybe might find more elderly people occasionally in a smaller location. But did you, the department, look at that, and have you considered sort of that access in there? Because there's 3 homes that you have to access through this drive where there could be, you know, it doesn't look too big. And if you have cars on each side, could you stick a fire truck down that? I'm actually kind of concerned. So have you looked at that, and how would your response be to that?
Mr. Mayor, Councilman Taylor, so the gentleman that spoke earlier about the hammerhead is correct. you cannot park on it, period. It would be considered a fire lane.
On the access from Roslyn, you cannot park on that.
No, you cannot. That is fire lane.
Okay.
So it'd be for fire, police, and EMS to access the houses into the back. So that's why I was kind of chuckling to myself when I saw the renderings, because it showed cars parked on there, and that's a no-no. So they would be signed no parking fire lane. I had messaged Stacy to tell her, hey, by the way, make sure that they sign that no parking fire lane because they can't park on it. Because that's one of when I became the fire marshal 7 or 8 years ago, however long it's been, that's what I all of a sudden became, as the parking guy. And the problems that we have is people don't put cars in their garages anymore. They put junk in their garages and their stuff. So if you have 5 cars, okay, I was in your same boat. I had 2 teenage daughters, and so we had 5 cars. It doesn't work. The math doesn't work. 2 in, 2 out, plus a third. Where are you going to put them? And that's always a concern for me with some of these bigger projects, to make sure that we have adequate parking. And then you throw a holiday in there. Now you have grandma, auntie, whoever coming over to visit. Where are they going to park? Well, they're going to park right in the hammerhead where it's not allowed. And so to answer your question again about who's going to police that, it's going to be the HOA is going to have to police it. And unfortunately, our police officers, Lieutenant Harper here, is going to have to sick somebody on them, because if it is posted no parking fire lane, we can ticket against it. There you go. So very much of a concern. Hammerheads, common driveways are always a problem, because as soon as they see common driveway, the person that buys those houses, that's now automatically their boat parking area. They don't realize that, no, that's for fire, police, and EMS. And so I don't like them because they turn into parking places.
Yeah, and I appreciate you clarifying that, because that was kind of a missing piece for me. Maybe I'll just add some of my thinking. So as the continuance for a few weeks, I look at this, there's some things I like, there's some things I'm concerned about. You've checked all the boxes in terms of what you're allowed to do. So there's no real legitimate reason to say you can't have that. I like that there's smaller product, like smaller homes. I think that's beneficial. The price point would reasonably be less than maybe some of the surrounding homes. I think that helps add some diversity. But I do think the public safety component of it really does concern me. I think, like I said, I have my neighbors are some patio style homes. Now we have good access. It's not a problem, but just this week, my elderly neighbor, the good fire department had to come and help her out, take care of her. If those back 3 homes, that common driveway is going to have people parking on it. And so I actually think there's a really legitimate public safety concern for people who live in the back. So I would probably, my thinking is I'm actually share my council members' concern about the density here. And I'm especially concerned about the public safety to the back. It seems to be a bit of a challenge. Otherwise, a lot of it, I really like, but I am concerned about that as well.
Thank you, Council. Any additional comments?
Mr. Mayor.
Councilwoman Little Roberts.
Elizabeth, thank you so much for requesting the continuance. I hope that will really give you and your team an opportunity to take in all that we've considered. And I realize that, you have stayed within the parameters, but I don't feel in this case it's the best fit after what we've seen, what's around it, especially 5 acres. That doesn't seem like it's going to change anytime soon. It just seems like this area, especially with the concern of parking and density and the hammerhead, just seems like it's not a good fit. And I hope that we can come back with something that works for everyone, because I think that we would like to see that little sliver annexed in and have something as a whole that fits more into that community area.
Council, I know Councilman Cavanagh, you've been talking to the clerk. You and Elizabeth want to share
Yeah.
dates?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. It's like you're reading my mind this evening. So Elizabeth, 3 dates for you to maybe look at. Both the 23rd and 7th are our next 2 council meetings. Want to be upfront, those are somewhat already full agenda items, although depending on where you come back, this may be relatively quick, may take a while, so I'll leave that to you. The other option is the 14th, which is currently wide open.
May.
Of May, yes, ma'am.
So I know I can't do the 23rd. I have a hearing that night. We'll take the May Day.
May 7th or May the 14th? And Mr. Mayor, I'm also looking, I see Bill reaching for his mic. I want to be sensitive to vacation requests of our staff as well. As much as they love this, they also want to spend time with their friends and family.
We love spending time with mayor and council. It's always a pleasure. But I do appreciate the discussion tonight, but I do want to close the loop on a few topics that were brought up this evening. One was setting a precedent. We're not setting a
Bill,
precedent.
can we get the
Yes,
dates squared away
please.
before we?
I just want to yes, please do that and then but the dates are fine for staff too.
Okay, thanks.
May 14th.
May 14th? Okay, that's good to know. And Mr. Mayor, a couple
Councilman
thoughts, and
Cavanagh.
then I think staff's got some things to wrap up. And so Elizabeth, thanks for that request. And I want to thank the Binghams too. I know they're sitting back, or I'm gonna make an assumption. I try not to make assumptions. Mrs. Bingham sitting back there. As I've kind of tried to look at this issue, and our role is somewhat to be fair. And I certainly can appreciate if a resident looks at our future land use map, sees low density, and if you're someone who wants to invest in real estate and do development and you see R8, like this application, you can come to the same conclusions looking at this particular piece of dirt. So I don't fault the applicant for trying to do what they believe could be accomplished within the zoning. I don't fault our neighbors for saying, hey, that's too heavy-handed here. And I think that's ultimately our role as council, is to listen to both sides, look at the map, look at zoning, what's been entitled, and make a decision about what is best for our community. Because, again, from everything I've read about the Binghams, they care about our community just as much as the neighbors that are going to live next to it, and I think have that desire to get it right. Not just for them, but for the people that are going to be living in these homes as well. So that's my 2 cents. Mr. Mayor, I think staff did have a couple of clarifications they wanted to make before I'll make a motion.
Mr. Parsons.
Thank you. I appreciate that, Mayor, members of the council. Just to clarify the record, I mean, the council would not be setting a precedence here. As we mentioned in our presentation to the council, this was afforded R8 based on a previous comp plan. So we've already established zoning is in place. In the case of the adjacent county acreage, they are LDR, or low density residential. If they want to do something similar, they have to go through a comprehensive plan map amendment. So there's another level of review in order to get to that 3 to 8, or those properties are going to develop at 3 or less. And imagine with them being fronted on Meridian Road, I don't anticipate they're coming in with LDR. Someone is going to probably do something different on that, given the transportation corridor. Councilman Overton, I appreciate those comments on the roadway. I think staff and the commission were tasked with, when zoning's in place, I think Councilman Cavanagh hit on it too. We're looking at, does it comply with the zoning code? With us already granting that zoning, the comp plan kind of loses some of the weight in the discussion, and we have to focus on, does this meet the code? And that's what we've done, and I believe that, and that is what the commission has done. So I want to put that in context. To Councilman Cavner's request, what if we denied the annexation? I would strongly urge against that as well. And the only reason is we should have annexed that right away when it all came in 2005, and we missed that opportunity. The Binghams have purchased that property. So essentially, if we do not annex that in, we are going to have a small enclave in the county that we may never get in the city. And we don't want to create that. And the comprehensive plan does not support that. So we've got to tread a little lightly when we make that decision. But you're absolutely right. If that was pulled and they could still meet the dimensional standards, we would still have to support the project. So I just at least wanted to let you contemplate that as we go through the continuation process with the applicant. I do appreciate the time. Thank you.
Maybe just for one couple items, because, so on that, when these are considered, can they be split out? Or is it one land use decision by council in the future date? The annexation versus the preliminary and final plat?
Well, Mr. Mayor, members of the council, I mean, it's one application, so it really, at this juncture, we couldn't split it out. And if you were to deny the annexation, I think the problem you have on this one, right, it doesn't fit. The plat won't fit anymore. I think what Ms. Kekritz has said is they would then redraw it without that in it, and so it'd be back in front of you.
I guess where I was
Split
going,
it at the
if council chooses to deny it in the future, we could come back with a friendly annexation and do a city initiated annexation for that piece of property to us, or we can't do that?
Mayor, members of the council, the Binghams own that piece of property. They went through ACHD and bought it and purchased it. So they clearly, they own that sliver now.
I mean, but we could still go through and annex them for them outside of the application process. It's less than 5 acres. We can do a city initiated annexation to bring it in. I'm just trying to get to get the council to the point moving forward. Hopefully it doesn't come to it where they don't have to decide to vote yes on something that I want to because of annexing a small piece of property, which we have another mechanism to do if it's that important. That's all I'm saying. We can talk about that offline, but my understanding of the law is we could do that. Maybe Elizabeth, you'd agree, disagree, but we don't need to talk about that now. Just trying to set the framework. So with that, do I have a motion? Councilman Cavanagh into his microphone.
Dean appreciates that. Mr. Mayor, I move we continue item 5, application H-2023-0056 to May the 14th.
Second.
I have a motion and a second to continue the public hearing to May 14th. Is there any discussion on the motion? If not, all in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Opposed, nay. The ayes have it, and the public hearing is continued until the 14th. Thank you.
Thank you.
Council, next up is executive session.
Mr. Mayor,
Councilman Cavanagh.
we go into executive session pursuant to Idaho State Code 74-2061D.
I have a motion and a second to go into executive session. Is there any discussion? If not, clerk call the roll.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Cavanagh,
Aye.
Little Roberts.
Aye.
Taylor,
Aye.
Overton,
Aye.
Strader.
Aye.
All ayes, motion carries. We'll go into executive session.